Alfie is a WOR race winner.
Jensen makes it 5 in a row.
Danny Berejnay wins on debut.
Shinaka returns to winning ways in WOR.
Season 12 sees a new man. It's Shadow. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jensen is the new king of PlayStation.
From the back row of the grid, against all odds, Nicholas Longy wins the title. Goes past the safety car.
What has gone on here?
Berman spins.
Stunning move from the Spaniard.
He's taken out Rambo. Here comes Longy. We're going 4 wide down to turn 1.
Oh, he's taking him out.
The champion run is complete. Sonic to the inside.
Shadow wins the Brazil.
Absolutely sensational.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to World Online Racing. Round number 10 here on the PC tier. And we've got arguably one of the tracks that always provides fantastic action. We are at the Jeddah Corniche circuit for the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. My name is Luke Etheridge, and joining me tonight for the second time this season is Jack Canaan. Jack, how are you doing?
Very well, Luke, thank you. It's been a while. Happy to be back. And yeah, I actually haven't done Saudi Arabia on this game yet, so this is a new experience for me. So looking forward to it. And obviously, we have F1 Esports coming up next week, so a lot of guys are busy prepping for that, but some of them are taking time out of their busy schedules to come have some fun around Saudi Arabia. Yeah, great, obviously, that we are going to see some of the drivers here. Jarno, obviously, should be making an appearance tonight. We've got some other names from esports, past, present, and possibly some names from esports in the future. If you cast your mind back, though, a couple of, well, it's a few days. Last week, it was a fantastic race that we saw last time around at Zandvoort, and in the end, we had a brand new winner this season. The man no stranger to being on the top step in WOR. It was Tomek Pavacic who took the victory there. A fantastic performance from him
in the end. A fantastic performance also from Ruben Pedreño, who was able, alongside with Tomek, to pull far enough away that in the end, the 5-second penalty for Ruben didn't really do anything. He still managed to finish in second. Jarno Ottmeier was third. And you can see the rest of the top 10 on your screen there. Manley, Smith, Fassi, Hofland, Dempsey, Wiesel and Van Haar. Which means, despite being absent for quite a few weeks, given that we have got quite a mixed up grid because of what is happening with esports, Lucas Blakely is still leading fairly comfortably at the moment. 41 points. Van Haar just 4 points behind Jake Benham. And Jarno, he's always there or thereabouts at the moment. And he just seems pretty chilled about how things are going, which is great to see.
Yeah, it really is. Jarno is here this evening. Obviously, we don't have Jake Benham was P2 in the championship. We don't have Lucas Blakely. So it is an opportunity for Jarno, even if he is focusing on esports, to actually close up a bit of a gap and start maybe just making this championship a bit interesting coming into these kind of last couple of rounds. So excited. Well, actually, as soon as I say that, Jake Benham's popped in. So there you go. So Jake Benham is in this evening for Mercedes as well. And great to see them taking time out of their schedule, of course, to come and race this evening. Some great names that are with us as well. Luke Smith on the grid this evening as well. Tino Nakarinen as well, making a return. Good to see him on the grid as well. And some other guys that, of course, are no strangers to F1 League racing as well. Guys like Cartalone, Max Wissel, as you said, Mirko Shuriano, Zander Van Dijken. So some big names this evening. And Saudi Arabia is the track that we're going to be racing around. We're waiting for 2 more, I think, to hop in. And we'll get underway then for qualifying around this great circuit. But, you know, it's great to see a mix of current esports guys, future esports guys, and some of the development drivers as well, because it gives a really good opportunity to see how they mix up against some of the best.
Yeah, they do. And Saudi, you know, quickly just get the track map up on screen for everyone that is watching at home. 6.174 kilometers, 27 corners, more than any on the calendar. And it is believed that the new permanent track at Saudi Arabia, whenever we get that, will have more corners. And it's for DRS zones before and after the final corner, before and after turn 27, that really provide all the excitement and all the action around here. We saw it in real life in 2021 quite controversially with Verstappen and Hamilton. A bit less controversially this year with Verstappen and Leclerc, but there's always action, there's always a bit of tactics going on, especially towards the end of the race, because no one wants to be leading coming out of that final corner.
No, absolutely not. So there's going to be a little bit of strategies to think about there. To think about, do you want to be in front? Do you want to be behind in some cases? Or do you want to be in front in some cases? You know, there's a lot to think about when it comes to trying to bait DRS. That's what we like to see sometimes from these guys as well. Some strategies to think about as well. Obviously on the F1 2022 game with the new tyre rule. Strategies, of course, are not going to be as varied as they would be on the previous game, but also you've got to keep in mind as well, some of these guys are racing in esports next week, so they won't want to, even if they might not be racing this track, you know, they don't want to show their hand, so don't expect to see too much from those guys. They'll always try to maybe just sandbag a little bit for these few couple of days before they race there on Wednesday. Still waiting for 2 more. Come on, guys, get in gear. See what I did there?
Yeah, they'll be doing plenty of gear changes around this circuit, as we've already said, more corners than any other. We will quickly run you through the grid, but firstly, hello to BRACLA, who has given us 169, well, pretty much 170 South African rand, so big thank you to you. I definitely did not have to Google what ZAR was in the background as we were going there, but it is much appreciated. Good evening, Luke and Jack. I know commentary is going to be late. Hopefully the track's going to be late, otherwise it'll be quite interesting racing around Saudi Arabia in the dark with no floodlights. If we go through what the grid is going to be then for tonight, in the Mercedes, we have got the esports duo, Jake Benham and Jarno Ottmeier. In the Red Bull, it is going to be Ismail Fassi and Dylan Warren. The Ferrari, it is going to be Alessio De Capua and Chan Akinci. In the McLaren, one of the informed drivers of this season so far, Ruben Pedreño and Zander Van Dijken. And a reminder, McLaren are leading the Constructors' Championship ahead of Mercedes at the moment. In the Alpine, we've got Luke Smith and Modesto Mena. For Alfa Tauri, Tom Manley, couple of pole positions so far this season, yet to convert either of those into a victory. Here's alongside Jack West. Aston Martin, I've got Max Wiesel and Caden Lutz, who I believe he's restarted his PC, so as soon as that's sorted, we should be able to get underway. In the Williams, it's Tino Nakarinen and Jack Laverty. Alfa Romeo have got their double development driver lineup of Carter Lundy and Drake Dempsey. And in the Haas, it is Mirko Soriano and Istvan Pukki. So yeah, we've definitely got that mix of experience, that mix of youth as well. Not that anyone here is particularly old, but that those drivers obviously that are quite new to the scene, and quite a few that are still fairly new to PC as well. But at least for track, it's one that's, you know, the drivers practiced on the last game a bit, depending on if they had league racing there. It's not one they'll be as familiar with as they will quite a lot of the others, obviously.
No, and I think that might be reflected in some drivers' practice times around here, you know, that they may not have put in the time around here, might just be figuring it out as they go, really, depending on the league racing schedules. So, as you said, we're waiting for Caden Lutt to get himself in, restart his PC and get in. We have basically everybody else while we wait. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this race goes with some of these guys as well. Again, I think we've got the last person. We have, thank God for that. So we have got the last person into this lobby before we hop into qualifying, full qualifying. Don't forget, around Saudi Arabia, so Q1, Q2, Q3 as well. And then we head into the 50% race, which we are looking forward to as well. As I say that, I think Caden Lutt's having some really horrible problems with trying to get into the lobby right now. So maybe we might have to start with 19.
Yeah, we might end up with just 19 cars. As long as he can get in before the end of first qualifying, then that'll be ideal. It is a bit different to what we see in a lot of leagues. A lot of leagues have gone for the midnight settings around Saudi Arabia. We've got realistic, so it'll be pretty much twilight around the time in qualifying. So slightly different conditions for them to get used to, but it's not something completely out of the ordinary. And it always makes me crazy to say this, there's always that slight chance of rain around Saudi Arabia. I've seen it happen in another league before. You never know. And I know Drake particularly, he was doing it practice for another league. He sort of got mocked for practicing times on the intermediate and the wet tyres because everyone was saying it's Saudi Arabia. You're never going to use them, but it's a game, you know. Who knows what could happen here. Qualifying obviously coming up. It is, as always, it's good to be on pole position, but that first part of the race, we see it on every game. We see it on esports as well. Around here, that first part of the race is really all just about setting up, making sure that you don't do anything stupid, and just waiting for after the pit stops where you'll expect everyone to really push.
Absolutely, yeah. Just on your point of rain around Saudi Arabia, it did rain in Formula E in Saudi Arabia once during a race as well, so it's not completely out of the question. But as you said, these races, as we've seen even in the first round of F1 esports, the races are quite formulaic. And what I mean by that is you'll have your DRS train for the first sort of half, and as soon as the pit stops happen, it just kicks off completely. So expect that to be very settled in the first sort of half of the race or first quarter of the race before the pit stop phase comes in. Then you'll see, as we come towards the pit stop phase, more pushes, more overtakes, and then towards the end, expect it to get a bit crazy. Drivers readying up in the lobby right now, so we should be getting underway very, very soon and heading into, of course, full qualifying. For those of you asking, where's Jarno? He's here. We know he's here.
Yeah, he is here. He is raring to go, as we said. Starting to show some good form now, Jarno. Picking up, I think, third place is his best result so far this season. He's picked up a couple of them in a row now, but it seems to be his qualifying performances that, if anything, have been letting him down. But it does look like he's getting more and more into that. And it's interesting that Jarno's decided to race tonight. Jake's decided to race tonight, whereas a lot of esports, probably understandably, they're not concentrating on this. They've got esports coming up in 3 or 4 days. This isn't on the calendar, but I suppose this is just a nice chance to sort of relax in a way from the constant grinding of the practice sessions and just try something different. You never know, taking that short break could be very beneficial.
Absolutely, yeah. You forget the intensity sometimes of esports practice. It's hours and hours of trying to find such small amounts of time. So just taking a break away from that and even hopping into a league race, having some fun, no practice, no setup, even try to do a default setup or wet setup or something just for a bit of fun. It can be a good break to have away from the constant grinding for time, which can take a lot out of people. You know, it's a mentally tiring, especially in F1 esports with a very large prize pool, a lot of pressure in some cases as well. So this is an opportunity for league racing to be the outlet for drivers to relax in. Countdown has finally started in the lobby. That might be the longest wait I've ever had for a lobby in our life. And yeah, we'll be getting underway in about 30-40 seconds.
Yeah, thank you so much for the patience, everyone. Glad you are sticking with us. Yes, esports will be taking place in the middle of the week. We are still waiting for Caden, but he will have to join in qualifying if that is not the case. If not, we will only have 19 drivers here tonight, so that will be 4 getting knocked out in the first section, and then 5, of course, getting knocked out in the second session. Now, we said racers, esports league racers, tend to follow quite a formulaic formula. Around here, it's a street circuit at the end of the day, so probably a much higher chance of safety cars than you'd get at most places.
Absolutely, yeah. The walls are quite close around Saudi Arabia in particular, so don't be surprised if we do see a safety car tonight. Of course, there's always a chance of them around street circuits, but of course it might be elevated this evening with some guys just not having practiced the track at all for an extended length of time. So maybe an even higher chance of a safety car than even a normal street circuit anyways. But we are officially loaded in, ready to go here in Saudi Arabia. And I will say, Luke, it is looking a little bit grey.
Yeah, it's not as, well, yeah, I've just actually certainly looked over at my screen at that moment in time. It's not looking anywhere near as sunny as you would be expecting things to do. Now, Xander Van Dijken has retired from the session straight away. You might remember the last time out, him and Carter Lundy came extremely close together in qualifying. Carter on a hot lap. I mean, there was no two ways about it. It was a very obvious block by Xander Van Dijken. Completely unintentional, but unfortunately for him, wasn't paying too much attention to what was happening behind him. There'll be no one behind him at all on the grid. He will be starting down in last place, as we are just, you can see, the drivers just starting to make their way out onto the circuit now. And we'll see who is going to be one of the first drivers to get out there on a lap time. And it's the standard fare. For those who aren't familiar with what happens here, everyone just heads out on a set of intermediates.
Yeah, I always like to say that there's three certainties in life. There's death, there's taxes, and there's drivers in Q1 in league racing on intermediate tyres. So that's a guaranteed certainty every time. It is to save a set of dry tyres, check your setup, check your force feedback is working correctly without using a set of dry tyres. And maybe the real F1 teams could learn something about this. Why don't they do this?
I mean, they might as well use a set of the wet tyres like Dylan Moran is, because let's be honest, if there's anything we've learned from the last 2 weekends, is that the wet tyres aren't really much good for anything else. And I think it's fair to say a lot of the F1 drivers agree with us on that one. So Dylan Moran headed out there on that set of the fall tyres. It is equal performance, so obviously the setups that the drivers are doing are different. They'll all be running their own custom setups, but things generally converge to very similar ones. 4 drivers, possibly 5 if Caden joins getting knocked out in this session of 18 minutes. 5 drivers knocked out in the 15-minute Q2. And the top 10 giving it all they've got in Q3. And we've generally seen the likes of, I mean, ones that come straight to mind straight away that are here tonight, Ruben and Tom, have been fantastically good at just doing one lap, getting through Q1, one lap, and getting through Q2.
Yeah, and the more you can do that, the better, because it gives you so much confidence, and the more soft tyres you can save for Q3, the better. So that is a very Lucas Blakely strategy, that you're able to do that. You can pull one lap out in Q1, one lap out in Q2, and get themselves cleanly through without having to waste another set of tyres. So expect a couple of drivers trying to try that. It is very difficult to do. If you invalidate, of course, that you end up maybe using another set of tyres, and you don't want to use up too many sets, or otherwise you won't have one for the race. So you end up having to start on a well-used set potentially. So the first laps here do not take them as, well, in any way representative, because they're all on the intermediate tyres basically. Some drivers not bothering to come out at all, but these are just very much a banker lap to make sure that their setup has loaded, first of all, their force feedback is working correctly, and they don't use a set of dry tyres in doing that, because you do only have limited sets of tyres available. So expect maybe towards, I think, about 10 minutes to go really in Q1 before we start seeing maybe the first dry tyre runs in this session. That's normally around about when we see it. So we have a little bit of wait for that, but for now, we always have the fun of watching guys drifting around for fun on wet tyres.
Yeah, I mean, Mirko Soriano's done apart from invalidated early on, this has not been too bad of a lap from the man who's, more familiar on the PS side of things, still starting to just come over onto the PC. And let's not forget, soon he will be taking part in an event, we hope, on the PlayStation versus Xbox side of things. PSGL versus WOR doing their own event. You can find out more information about that on Twitter as Jet Laverty, fastest of everyone on a 1:31.8. Again, these times are absolutely meaningless. It always amazes me. I mean, Dylan Moran's obviously sliding around on 4 wet tyres, but the inters on this game aren't actually too bad in the dry conditions. Certainly not compared to previous games where you'd see a lot more drivers struggling and spinning around.
Yeah, you know, it is. I think maybe they took some inspiration from Lewis Hamilton turning the intermediates into slick tires in Turkey that one time. So, you know, they're actually not that bad. The wets, I'm sure, are absolutely horrendous at the moment on this dry circuit, but they will have some sort of grip. They just overheat a lot on the surface. So Max Wissel currently at the top, 131.675. Interested to see how far off the wets are. There it is, 37.1. So nearly 6 seconds. About what we saw today in Suzuka, to be honest, compared to the wets and the intermediates on a wet track. So yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, not bad at all. And Mick Schumacher obviously trying that interesting strategy to see if he could get the Haas onto the podium. Well, onto the points, unfortunately for him. It didn't work. Jarno Uppbeat just finishing this installation lap as he comes towards the line. Again, this time's completely irrelevant to what we'll be seeing later on, but it's always nice to see your own name at the top of the timing charts. Uppbeat fastest at the moment. Wiesel, Laverty, Dempsey, Smith, Maynard and Warren, the drivers that have been out and completed their lap. Ruben Pedrent, we've just seen... Chalakinchi, got himself up in towards 7th place, and Ruben Pedreño, he's making his way around the final corner in rallied lap, so won't count, but again, not bothered about this too much, so he's going to dive into the pits. And Ruben, he's been impressing quite a bit at the moment. Obviously, managed to win his home race at Spain, got a second last time out, and it was just the pure pace him and Tomek had. I mean, when you've got a 5-second penalty, the chances of you finishing second place in a field this close, you'd normally say are next to none, but somehow him and Tomek were able to pull enough of a gap, and Ruben held on to that place.
Yeah, Ruben's on a really good run of form right now, and is sort of proving what he's able to do on a big improvement, which is great to see. He's always been thereabouts, but never quite was able to break into podium territory or into the wins. But now he's finally broken that. So it's a great job by him to finally get himself up towards the front end, and he's staying up towards the front end, which is, I think, really encouraging for him. So let's see if he can keep it up. So the first runs are done, and we will now see drivers switching on to dry tyres after those installation laps on the inters and the wets. So we'll see when the first car will decide to come out of the pit lane on the soft compound tyre, I would imagine, for these first runs, but it's going to go all quiet out on track for just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, we've got Jarno just pulling back in towards the pit lane. We've got Chalakinchi out there. He's the first, slight victim of the walls here around the Jeddah circuit. He's lost his front wing somewhere, either on the end or the beginning, I think, of one of his laps, because his 132.8's not bad on the intermediates. Thankfully for him, he's able to get it back to the pits. Thankfully, they won't have any issues fixing that, so he will be able to carry on and go on to a set of slicks. But yes, all 18 cars that are still able to take part, apart from Zander Van Dijken, who is, of course, got that qualifying ban. It is all quiet out on circuit. And this does make me wish that, it's probably quite low down on the priority list, but I wouldn't mind if EA sort of could do a shorter Q1 and Q2 and then a bit longer in Q3, just to skip all this part that we know is pretty much irrelevant.
Yeah, it sort of is, and I know F1 are thinking about putting in rules of making them use certain tyre compounds in Q1, Q2, Q3. That would even make it a little bit more interesting. But even, yes, a shorter Q1, shorter Q2 and a longer Q3 would be great. There's one single car that's come out onto the circuit, Ismail Fassi, and right about when I said he would, about 10 minutes to go in the session on the soft tyres, and he's the only car currently out on the circuit. One of the Alfa Romeos coming out onto the circuit as well at the moment. Drake Dempsey, the American, out on the circuit now with the Alfa Romeo, development driver, of course, for Alfa Romeo this season. And let's see what he's able to do. But now the cars starting to make their way out onto the circuit on soft compound of tyres, and it will be Ismail Fassi will be the first one to take us on a more representative lap of the Jeddah circuit.
Yeah, everyone out quite spread out at the moment as they're leaving the pit lane. It is the second longest track on the calendar at the moment, only beaten by Spa-Francorchamps. Being quite a quick circuit as well means time-wise, we'll be seeing a few seconds knocked off of those, but there should still be space for everyone. It is Formula 1 though. Don't be surprised if everyone does start bunching up in the final sector to try and gain as much space as possible, as Ismail's just heading his way down the first of the 3 DRS zones on this circuit. Let's not forget, one there, one coming out of this little section now through 24, 25 and 26, and as we've already said, coming out of the final corner, coming out of turn number 27. That is where we see all the fun and games with drivers in the race trying to get that slipstream, even on the final lap. Things could be incredibly close. Let's not forget last year, Esteban Ocon losing out to Valtteri Bottas in the race. But on board then with the Spaniard, on board with Ismail Fassi, and let's see what he can do around the Jeddah Corniche circuit as he makes his way down towards the first corner now. Nice and calmly through there, in towards turn number 2, making sure gets it swung around, hugging the wall tightly, coming through turn number 3. And it's very interesting at this part of the circuit. How late do you dare brake? The game's quite liberal with the track limits at this part of the circuit. And now they can barely count the corners as you're flying your way through. Left, right, left. Once again, this fiddly little section, 9, 10, 11, 12, one coming after the other. Used to be a DRS zone on the last game, but is it now to represent real life? There is still a possible overtaking opportunity into the bank left-hander at turn number 13, allowing you to carry much more speed around there, and it has all been nice and calm for Ismail Fassi so far. Now, the second half of the lap pretty much follows a similar pattern. You've got these fast right-left chicanes coming in and these winding, long curves that are nice and easy for a modern Formula 1 car to go through flat out. DRS open for Fassi as we see what speeds he reaches as he heads towards the braking zone there. About 328 kilometres per hour, roughly 205 miles per hour in old money. Just avoiding that car, making sure that they're getting out of the way there, the AlphaTauri. Do not want to be seeing any blocking or any potential qualifying penalties around here, but this is looking very nice at the moment. From Ismail Fassi in towards the final corner, make sure you get a good exit. And the Spaniard heads towards the finish line, sticking towards that left-hand side, and it is going to be a 1:27.449 as the first run that we see in this session. Obviously, there'll be a street circuit as the track evolution comes into play, as confidence comes into play. I think we'll be seeing many drivers beating that time.
Absolutely, yeah, but a nice, neat and tidy lap from Ismail Fassi, and then now we will wait to see who else can come close to that. Drake Dempsey on a 27.6, popped in behind Tino Nakarinen on a 27.9 on his first run across the line there. So there's lots of cars out on the circuit right now on their timed efforts. Basically everybody except Jake Benham and Carter Lundy are on timed laps right now. So everybody is on a timed lap. Modesto Mena into second on his first run in the Alpine. A couple more still to come across the line now in a few moments' time. We'll wait to see who can pop up there. Jack Lafferty popping into third place for now. Next up across the line will be Dylan Warren, pops in just behind him. Next Alpine is Luke Smith, 27.7 for him. Aston Martin coming across the line now. Max Wissel into P4, 27.5. And then we will have Jake Benham to begin his lap. But now currently in the middle sector is Jarno Wotmir, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do on his first run. He's coming up through the middle. Ruben Pedreño with his first effort on a 27.3. Let's see if that's going to be enough to see him through with just doing one run, but ideally you'd want to just have the one run. Jarno Wotmir up towards the final corner now, just about touching, going over 207 miles an hour into the braking zone there, onto the power out of the final corner. Little bit of oversteer on the way out, but manages to get it straight, heads towards the start-finish line now, and his first effort is a 27.569 into P6. So, as per usual, as you would expect, everything is very, very close. Tom Manley into fourth there on his effort, but Ruben Pedreño, the only man in the .3s.
Yeah, only man in his .3s at the moment, and as you said, it is extremely close. You've got the top 9 drivers on the second longest circuit on the game, separated by a quarter of a second. Let us know in the chat what you think the cut-off point will be. Only Pookie, Benham, De Capua and Lundy yet to head out there at the moment. Lundy seems to be leaving it quite late. Not sure if he's had any issues or anything leaving the session. Haven't seen that pop up, but I imagine we'll be wanting to head out there sooner rather than later. As Jake Benham, the man second in the championship, a big, big opportunity to close that gap to Lucas Blakely. No matter what happens, he won't be leading the championship tonight, but he'll definitely want to get a victory. And across the line, only 14th on that lap. Didn't really look as though he was pushing things towards the end of that one there. So taking things quite easy indeed. Chanakinchi still yet to set a valid lap time. Drop zone at the moment. Van Dijken, Pookie, De Capua and Lundy. But with 3 of the 4 of them still able to set a time, there is plenty of opportunity for that to change. And with it being so close, I'm not sure anyone's going to feel massively comfortable at the moment. Possibly the top 3.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think your top 3 are probably safe, but you gotta look. Tom Manley, Jack Laverty, Jarno Wotmir, Max Wissel, and Mirko Shuriano are all on a 27.5. That is how close it is. Tom Manley, Jack Laverty, and Jarno Wotmir are also within the same 100th of a second as well. Yeah, within the same 100th. They're all separated by 8 1,000ths of a second. So that is how close it is in the mid-pack, in the middle of the order right there, in the top 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And currently the cutoff, well, there isn't really a cutoff at the moment, really. As you can see, Ruben Pedreño, he thinks he's safe. He's not going for another run. 27.3. That is a big vote of confidence there. Ruben Pedreño and Ismail Fassi also have decided that 27.4 is enough. So that is quite. So they obviously followed Pedreño in retiring. So Pedreño, Fassi, and Mena have all gone to retire. So they seem to think that they're safe. But again, they're probably not wrong, because it's going to take basically everybody behind them to improve by over 2/10.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Fassi do this a couple of times so far this season, and it's backfired on one of them. So, not ideal whatsoever. We're hearing Benham might have got some damage on that lap, so that would explain why he's a long way down the order at the moment. Istvan Pukki got it all wrong, coming through 4, 5, 6, and 7, so that is why he's invalidated on this one. He'll be making his way back towards the pit lane and has not got too long to go. 2 minutes 45 seconds to go in this session. The top 4 drivers thinking that they're safe. Us in the chat seem to think that Tom Manley on a 127.561 might just be risking things at the moment because of how many drivers. We know that can improve, and that obviously are still yet to set a time, but we've now got the field heading out there for their final runs in the session. Jack Leverty out there at the moment, and the field currently being led by his teammate out on the circuit, Tino Naukavainen, as that's another one. Mirko Soriano retiring in 8th place. I'm not sure I'd be feeling the most confident if I was him, but we'll see. If this works out, got himself a fresher set of tyres, of course, for Q2 and possibly Q3.
Yeah, it's a gamble for sure, so we'll wait and see. Question we have to ask is, Jake, did you have damage? Is the question we have to ask. But anyways, we have the rest of the field out. Jarno not out at the moment. Still waiting to see if he will come out. We have one of the Mercedes coming down the pit lane. Jake Benham on his way out of the pit lane now. So we'll have to wait to see. This could be cutting it quite tight for guys like Jarno Wattmeier and Max Vissel. I don't think they're coming out again, Luke. So Jarno's not coming out. Max Vissel is also not coming out. So they believe the cutoff is going to be a 27.5.
Yeah, they've just got to hope they fall on the right side of it. I wonder if Xander didn't obviously have that qualifying ban, and if Mirko Hans have already retired. I wonder whether we would have seen Jarno and Max head out if it wasn't for that. Must be great confidence for them. First time this season that they'll be hoping they've been able to do one and done and get themselves through in qualifying. But what can Tino do as he slides his car coming out of turn number 2 and on the entrance to turn number 3? Certainly pushing hard, and no one's left themselves enough time here to do a second lap if they get it wrong on their first one. It is basically one-shot qualifying for everyone out in the field to see if they can get through to Q2. This is pressure.
Certainly is pressure. Carter Lundy's given himself one single lap in the whole session to give himself a chance. So now we know Xander Van Dyken, he'll be starting at the back anyways. So this is important laps now. Alessio De Capua is on his effort right now. He's in the drop zone. He needs to improve big time. Hasn't set a lap, invalidated his first run, and he's done a very good first sector according to the track map here. Now coming through sector number 2. It's looking pretty neat and tidy so far from Alessio De Capua, but he does not want to invalidate his time here. Cannot afford to. Flat out through this long DRS section. And again, a minute 0.0 is the Sector 2 split at the moment. So it is looking tidy. It's looking neat for the Italian, but he needs to improve. And it needs to get time with the board, first of all, to see if he can get through. He's coming to the final corner now. And, well, Jack Laverty has invalidated his time, so he won't be able to improve as they come up to the start-finish line now. Tino gets into Q2 in P4, 27.5. De Capua goes fastest. Look at that from the Italian. 27.2 and goes quicker than Pedreño by about a 1/10 of a second. So is there a bit of sweat dripping off these guys now?
Well, possibly. I think Luke Smith, he'll be feeling pretty nervous in that 11th place. What might help him out is Jack West shoots into 5th. Carter Lundy crashed coming out of the final corner on his outlap. So he will not be taking any further part in this qualifying session. He'll be starting behind Xander Van Dyken, who has got a qualifying ban. Janak Inchi to try and knock Jake Benham out of the qualifying provisionally. He shoots himself in towards 12th place. We've got a Red Bull towards the line. That is Dylan Warren. Does a fantastic job. Drake Dempsey on the bubble. Shoots himself up in towards 6th place. So it is all about Pukki and Benham at the moment. Can they knock out Janak Inchi and Luke Smith as things stand at the moment? And Jake Benham, he is improving. He's not got damage on this lap so far. Gets very close to the wall. Coming out of the final corner. What's it going to be for Benham? He needs this to really stick in this championship battle and stays in 16th place. And it's from Pookie comes across the line. We didn't quite see what happened. Did Luke Smith make it? He did not. Smith is out. Pookie sneaking through at the death.
How about that? Jake Benham not making it through to Q2, but Alessio Di Capua tops the session. Very impressive right there. Luke Smith is out of Q1. Bit of a shock there. Jake Benham as well, not making it through. Sander van Dijken with a qualifying ban won't be starting last. Carden Lundy is going to be behind him, and they are the 4 drivers eliminated. And the cut-off in the end was a low 27.6. But as you can see, it was incredibly close. 3/10 from the top down to the cut-off. So very, very close indeed. But impressive stuff, I have to say, from Alessio Di Capua. That's the first time I've seen him top a session in a long time. So good to see him back on form.
Yeah, I mean, Soriano, he came out of the session and definitely left it quite late. But yeah, very, very ideal, I think it's fair to say there, for Alessio Di Capua. I mean, he did a fantastic job last week. He just got the fueling one at the Netherlands, and that was, yeah, less than ideal for him for that happening there. As we said, things were looking overcast in the last qualifying session. They're somehow looking more so at the moment. I'm not sure whether this is because it's heading into night time, of course, at Saudi Arabia, but it is looking very cloudy out there at the moment. And yeah, a few more drivers instantly heading out onto the circuit. Now, it is more than likely that this will be on a used set of the tyres, probably obviously the one that we've just seen them use in Q1. So just taking it steady for now. So don't expect to see times flying up the board straight away. Drivers with confidence. Obviously, you know, Di Capua, he needed a second run, but he'll be feeling pretty happy. But the likes of Pedreño, Manley, Jarno Opmeer, obviously as well, Mirko Soriano, and a couple of others getting through on one run. If they get through to Q3, that really does leave them in good stead.
Yeah, now we know, of course, Alessio Di Capua it took 2 runs to get himself through as he invalidated his first one, so he will have one less set of tyres, or one less set of softs to work with. But as far as I can see, everybody is out on a used set for this first run. Of course, you want to save as many sets of soft tyres as you can, but they're all very bunched up. They all came out together and have all sort of bunched up in the middle sector here. There's a big queue of them. As you can see, even on the track map in the bottom right of your screen, there's a big long train of cars next to each other there. If you look at Alessio Di Capua, he's up behind the Mercedes. Jarno Opmeer, he's got another car in front of him, and he's got the Hasses behind him, so they're all stacked up together in the middle sector. They're going to have to work it out to get themselves some track space to work with. But I think, as it was in Q1, the first man who will set a time is Mirko Soriano in the Haas. So he'll have the first run. Again, these are on used sets of tyres, but it will be a good indication even so. And it's all about being in that important top 10 at the end of this session. So let's see who can get through. But Mirko Soriano begins the Q2 runs.
Yeah, only just snuck through to Q2. Obviously, after leaving it pretty safe in the end in Q1, but it doesn't matter if you're 15th in Q1, doesn't matter if you're 10th in Q2, as long as you get through. It's all about just setting a good enough time at the moment, and a 1:27.62 proving to be a good enough time in the last session as driving these modern Formula 1 cars. I mean, I just imagine that around this circuit, it's quite terrifying to drive an actual Formula 1 car, but so much fun threading it through the walls.
Yeah, it looks like you can barely actually see where you're going at some point. It's just muscle memory after a certain point, especially that first windy section where Mick Schumacher binned it off in qualifying, if you remember, in a big way. That section there will be obviously a joy when you get it right, but terrifying if you get it wrong. And it's such high speed as well around here in Saudi Arabia. So nice to have a circuit that is high speed and, of course, a challenge for these guys as well. This is a street circuit at the end of the day, so it is a challenge for these guys, and it's obviously thrown up controversy in more ways than one over the short time it's been in Formula 1 on the Formula 1 calendar. So Mirko Soriano, then the Italian in the Haas, heading towards the start-finish line, and on the U set 27.8 to get us started this evening. Drake Dempsey 28.105 on his U set of tyres. Again, this will not be representative until we see shiny new tyres on these cars. These will not be the times that will see these guys through to Q3, but it's currently Suriano who's the quickest on the U sets currently at the moment. And across the line now, a couple more guys just taking it very steady as they come across and get a lap in, because also an important part of this as well, not only is it saving tyres, but in the very slight chance it does rain, you want to make sure you have a time on the board.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have that banker lap, but also it just gets yourself a delta on the board. So when you're on your lap on a fresh set of tyres, you're seeing a green delta. You don't feel the need to push possibly too hard into some of the corners and completely ruin your lap. That just little psychological advantage that the drivers try and get, of course, because things are so close here. Probably on pure pace, on a perfect lap, these drivers, you'd only see between the entire field three or 4 tenths. It's all just being able to repeat it and do it lap after lap after lap, of course, here in the races. So you can see which drivers have decided not to bother going out. Tom Manley did, but he made a mistake on his lap, so I think just brought it straight back in towards the pits. Himself, West, Maynard, Laverty, Nakarine and Warren and Pookie keeping it nice and quiet for now. And it is Soriano on the top, Max Wiesel in second, Pedreño in third place. We'll see whether Pedreño is one of the first drivers to head out there, obviously on a fresh set of tyres. They should still have enough time in, obviously around this track, being a slightly shorter session, but they should still have enough time in to get 2 runs done on a fresh set of tyres, if they so need to. But I imagine the likes of Pedreño and Manley especially will be hoping that they can do one and done once more.
Yeah, that would be the aim for them, as Tino Nakarinen and Jack Lafferty, the 2 Williams cars, come out onto the circuit and they'll have the track to themselves, and some shiny tyres on those Williams cars by the looks of it, unless they've decided to just come out and have the track to themselves. They have got some fresh tyres on those Williams cars, so it'll be the track to themselves for the 2 Williams guys of Jack Laverty and Tino Nakarinen. Jack Laverty, the first of the cars that's going around at the moment, and this will be the first, I would imagine, indication of the pace that will be set in Q2, and an idea, even just to give us an idea of what the cutoff might be. Remember, it was a low 27.6 was the cutoff this time, so I wonder what the cutoff might be. I think we might be aiming for a low 27.5, high 27.4 cutoff even this time, but again, it could get massively quicker, who knows at this stage. But we've got the 2 Williams together. Jack Laverty will be the first car to set a time on what look like brand new tyres on that Williams. We'll get an idea of the pace now.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what he can do. I think you're right with that cut-off time. I think you're going to need a 27.3 to feel anywhere near comfortable around here. We are now seeing, the likes of Soriano, Wiesel, Pedreño, Fassi and Dempsey all head out there on their second runs. It's about to get very busy on this circuit, as everyone apart from Janakinchi is heading out there at the moment. Jarno just making his way out of the pit lane again, very close to the wall from Laverty. We've seen a few drivers do that coming through turns number 2 and 3. Certainly not ideal, and it is that very fast section. The drivers barely having time to think here, as Jack said, just driving it all on muscle memory at the moment and making sure that they get it all nice under the lights. And it is always fine margins in Formula 1. Jack Laverty just invalidating there. We'll have to wait and see what his teammate can do. Tino Naukavainen, actually a bit slower than Laverty through Sector 1, but much more importantly, he's managed to keep it valid.
Yeah, I was just watching Jack Laverty's inputs through there. You could see how much he was feathering the throttle halfway through, and just trying to keep it out of the wall. He just extended ever so slightly, and that was enough to ruin that attempt. So he'll have to go for another run. But Tino Nakarinen having no such problems right now on his way up towards the braking zone here. Flicks it in, just dragging that brake as he makes his way through the corner, trying to get some rotation to get this car around the corner here now, up towards the last corner now. There might be a stack up here. There's a lot of cars waiting to go here, and he's going to get impeded in the middle right there. And unfortunately, there was a collision between Ismail Fassi and Jack Laverty as they came through the last corner there. And it's a 5-place grid penalty for Ismail Fassi. But that is how close it gets in Jeddah, but he still goes to the top of the 27.5. But I mean, that took some, that was very, very brave from Nakarinen to keep it pinned through the last corner there.
Yeah, I think there was quite a few drivers saw him late. I think it might have been Max Wiesel who was sort of just half in the middle of the lap. Obviously, everyone wanting to get themselves some space. Whatever you gain from a slipstream around here, you're going to lose so much more with how twisty it is. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some penalties given out after that. And of course, because we go straight from the race to qualifying, there's no chance for Ismail Fassi to get that penalty removed. So that 5-place penalty, the best he can now qualify is 6th place. He could still technically qualify in last if things go down at the bottom of this session and he ends up in 15th place. But yeah, not ideal at all for Ismail Fassi. And I think I agree with Ben here. Like, cat-like reactions from Tino Naukarainen to just avoid flying straight into the back of another car, which would have been very nasty indeed, and probably would have led to 2 retirements in this session. Let's see what Max Wiesel can do then. We're on board with the Aston Martin driver as he's heading towards the Sector 2 timing split at the moment. Already half a second up on his previous lap. Maynard and then Dempsey goes fastest of everyone. Tom Manley splits for 2 of them. Jack West with a 1:27.1 from the AlphaTauri driver. He should be comfortably safe with that one. Ruben Pedreño also getting into the 1:27.1s. I think Max Wiesel, he's not going to be too far off that as well. Aston Martin driver heads towards the finish line. 1:27.249. I think we might have to just rethink about our times that we were saying here. I said on a 1:27.3, you'll be feeling pretty comfortable. Jarno's 7th on a 1:27.3, and there's still 3 drivers yet to set a time.
Yeah, they're surprising me with the pace here. 27.1, a low 27.1 at that as well for Jack West. Very impressive lap from the AlphaTauri driver. He should definitely be safe. The high 27.1 for Pedreño as well. You would imagine he would be safe as well. Dylan Warren's currently on his lap as well, and he's going, I think, not too bad in the middle sector for him there. Let's see if it'll be enough to get him through. And at the moment, we'll wait and see, but he's backed off actually on his way up to the last corner. So it looks like he'll be coming into pit lane this time. Not happy with the lap. And so there's still some drivers to go here. We obviously now know Ismail Fassi will have at least a 5-place grid drop after that collision in the final corner. So the best he can qualify, as you said, is P6. So now he's basically out of contention for pole position, which is a shame because he's looking pretty quick there to low 27.2. Max Wiesel as well looking pretty good. Chana Kinchi up there in the top 5 at the moment. But as you said, Jarno Wontmeier, P8 on a 27.3. The cutoff is at the moment what I said it would be, a 27.4, but I reckon it's going to get lower.
Yeah, I think only those drivers on a 1:27.2 now will be feeling comfortable. So the top 5, definitely West and Pedreño. Can't see he's getting that many into the 1:27.1s, but yeah, the 1:26s probably what we're going to have to see in Q3 if you want to be anywhere near pole position. They are all equal cars, and it is West who's getting his equal car around fastest at the moment. The man who is currently 32nd in the championship only got 4 points at Miami, a fairly new street circuit, so seems to have the tracks that suiting at the moment, and West doing very well indeed. Pedreño up there, Fassi, Wiesel, Akinci, Suriano, Dempsey, Uppmeyer, Manley and Maynard. As things stand with 3 minutes and 10 seconds remaining in the second qualifying session, those would be the 10 drivers contesting for pole position here. Naukarainen, De Capua, Pookie, Warren and Laverty, with those bottom 3 yet to set a time, will be the drivers missing out, of course. I mean, we've seen a few invalidations around here. I think that was to be expected. I imagine Tino especially, he'll be more aware of all the traffic that can potentially happen in the final sector. We said we expected this. We had that gaggle of cars coming out on the used tyre runs. Everyone seems to have their own run plan, and everyone seems to come out together, obviously.
Yeah, that seems to be what's happening. We now, of course, I think Tino will take some solace from the fact that he still did a 27.5 with being impeded completely in the last corner as well. So I think he feels like there might be a 10th or 2 left in that car. And if you're wondering why he's revving the hell out of the engine right now, that's actually fuel burning to get even just exactly a lap, and that will make a small difference as well. If you've ever wondered why the drivers go slowly revving the engine, that's burning off excess fuel around the circuit. So even small fine margins make the difference here in league racing. So it's going to get a little bit tight for space because every single car is out there, and another penalty for Ismail Fassi, so that's going to get even worse. Yeah, Fassi is, I mean, he could potentially be getting a qualifying ban for the block anyway on Naukarainen. He's got a 5-second penalty for a collision with Laverty. He's now got a 5-second penalty for blocking on an out lap. I mean, yeah, not ideal at all for Fassi. I think you can safely say, barring a miracle, he's going to be starting somewhere near the back of the grid. Interestingly, that Pedreño, Fassi, Wiesel and Akinci have all headed out there again. Whether they'll be pushing
flat out for the entirety of their laps, or we'll see them dive towards the pits. We'll have to wait and see, but those were drivers who made it through. Well, Pedreño certainly did. I think Fassi and possibly Wiesel might have done as well. They made it through Q1 on only one set of tyres, so they have got that spare set. They are in a fairly nice situation to be in at the moment, as let's see what Alessio De Capua can do then. He's going to be one of the first drivers making his way around this circuit. In fact, no, what am I on about? We've got Tino now Karainen towards the end of his lap then. Yellow flags. Doesn't look to have had any trouble this time. I think we were just being told a little porcupine there. Still on an outlap was Tino. But Alessio's invalidated. I'm just trying to see how much time is left in this session. But that could well be qualifying over for the Ferrari man.
Yeah, he invalidated in the first couple of corners as well, so it's a shame because he's 4 tenths up on his best time, and I remember he topped Q1 on a 27.2, so surely there's more time for Alessio De Capua, but such a shame now he hasn't managed to do that. Modesto Mena, he's also invalidated in the middle sector as well, so that's his lap gone, and he's on the bubble, so that's not what he needed in this case. Now, Dylan Warren has also invalidated this time, so he's not going to be able to improve. So everybody should be safe at the moment who's currently through, because everybody behind is sort of not improving or has invalidated their times. Pedreño's going faster at the moment. He's a 10th of a second up, over a 10th of a second up on his best time in the middle sector, 2 tenths up in the middle sector now. This is just for bragging rights nearly. Will he even finish the lap at this stage? Up towards the last corner now for Pedreño, and this could be now pushing the 27 zeros for these guys now. Here comes Pedreño. He, by the looks of it, as long as he keeps this last corner neat and tidy, he will top Q2. Out of the final corner comes the Spaniard. See if he can get himself up to the top of the order to top Q2. It's a 26.9. There it is from Pedreño. Tops it just for the sake of it. Tom Manley on the 27.13. He gets himself through. Nakarin and sneaks it in and then gets immediately knocked out by his teammate Jack Laverty on a 27.2. Cut off right now is Jarno Oppmeer. He's in P10 on the 27.3, and he will get through, Luke, by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah, he will get through. I think he was the man I was worried about with those first runs, but so many drivers getting it wrong. Mena, De Capua, Dylan Warren, all invalidating their runs, as we've just seen Ismail Fassi also get onto the 126.9s. Jarno Oppmeer, in the end, decides to finish his lap anyway, a 127.199 for the Flying Dutchman, puts him in towards 6th place as Mirko Suriano improved on his final runs. But plenty for those drivers in the bottom 5 to think about. Plenty of missed opportunities, so many mistakes, proving to be very costly. Pedreño, he'll be going through comfortably. Fassi, he's also through. He has a 10-second penalty. Jack Laverty has a 5-second penalty as well, but they're through into Q3. They can still pull off something. There's now Karainen. He is out of the session alongside Pukki, Mena, De Capua as well, and Dylan Warren failing to set a time, and that'll be frustrating for Alessio De Capua. Did a fantastic job, of course, in Q1, but he is out in Q2. Who's going to take pole position, though? We'll find out very shortly. We'll be back after this break. Here we go then. Q3 is on, and it's very quiet out there at the moment. I think we can officially say it is night time now, so we're seeing the drivers heading out there. I was predicting the 126ers for this final session. We've already seen it twice in that one from Pedreño and Fassi, and we were just talking before, just off air while that advert was happening. I can't remember ever seeing a Q2 session, well, any qualifying session on an F1 game where there's been 3 separate penalties handed out for blocking, 2 for Fassi and 1 for Laverty.
Yeah, I've never seen that many grid drops being handed out in one session, and we're getting closer to real F1, aren't we? With all the grid drops, it's almost like we're blurring the line between reality and esports at this stage. But Ben Price in the YouTube chat making a very good point about Ismail Fassi. Despite making it through to Q3, he could still qualify last.
Yeah. Which sounds crazy. I mean, let's not forget, we are only going to have 19 drivers as well. So if he's 9th or 10th in this session, he is going to be in last place. almost guaranteed to be qualifying behind Jack Laverty, no matter what happens as well. So Xander Van Dijken, despite his qualifying ban, he's already beat Carter Lundy, who made a mistake. He could also beat Ismail Fassi, so could, despite having that quali ban, end up starting in 17th place. We've got an Alfa Romeo at the back of the grid. We've got one of them very keen at the moment to make their way around this Jeddah Corniche circuit. Drake Dempsey just flying his way around at the moment. Reigning Tier 2 champion. Failed to finish at this race last season in the second tier, but it was sort of after that he became unstoppable on the way to that title. But Jack, why don't you take us around this circuit for our first lap in Q3?
Here we go then, Drake Dempsey bringing us around the Jeddah Corniche circuit now, spotting the braking for turn number 1. 90-degree left-hander, spotting that sausage curve on the left, flick it back to the right again with the pit exit coming out very dangerously on the left-hand side there as he gets on the power now before we get to this incredibly fast blink and you miss it through the left, through the right, keeping the curve to the right hand side of you. A little bit of a wiggle through the middle part of that corner, but gets it sorted out. And just like that, 6 corners have gone by. Flick it back to the left again before we get up to the sector split in just a few seconds time now. Good effort so far from Drake Dempsey, and he comes across the split there. 32-0 in that first part. Into the banked corner now, keeping the curb on the left of you there, all the way out to the wall on the right hand side. More conservative from Drake Dempsey there, but keeping it out of that concrete wall now, flicking it back to the right hand side and back immediately left again onto the power. Little bit of oversteer on the way out, but sorts it out and then heading down towards the DRS detection point now. Gets across that line just there. DRS wide open, heading towards 200 miles an hour, creeping over 200 miles an hour, back to the left, a little bit wide on the way through, sorts it out in the mid part, back to the right again up towards turn 27 and 28. Round along left-hand kink, spotting now the braking for the final corner, and you got to get this right. You got to make sure you hit the apex. Onto the brakes now, flicking it down to 4th gear. Little bit of under rotation on the initial turn in, sorts it out though, straightens it up on the exit, and heads up towards the line now for Drake Dempsey. It's at the first time of Q3 on his tyres, 27.651, and you can be sure that'll be on a set of the used tyres.
Yeah, he won't be too upset about that. That's not really too bad of a lap whatsoever. We're just waiting to confirm this, we're just hearing that there might actually be a restart in between qualifying and the race because of the situation with so many drivers getting, Jack Laverty getting 5 places, Ismail Fassi getting 10 places, so that is going to be good news for all of those guys. So, yeah, definitely their bacon just being saved a tiny little bit at the moment in this session. Jack Laverty, 1 minute, 0.2. as he makes his way through the second sector. Not bad whatsoever, this, for a used tyre run at the moment from Jack Laverty. Unsurprisingly, with 27 corners, having the used tyres does cost you quite a bit more time than it does around most circuits. But Laverty making his way around the final corner. I'm not sure if he knows yet that he's going to get that penalty removed, courtesy of the decision by the stewards to restart the session. And he comes across the line with a 1:27.570. Now, I'm interested to see what Ruben Pedreño can do on this lap, because I'm fairly certain he's going to be on a fresh set of tyres.
Yes, I believe you would be correct. And yes, those tyres look very shiny indeed. Ruben Pedreño on his way now. Let's see if he can steal pole position here in Jeddah as he begins his run and see what he's able to do. He did a 26.9 in Q2. Has he got more in the tank? So gentle on the throttle coming out of the first corner there, making sure he didn't spin up the rears. Going to be just making sure we keep an eye on the sectors for Pedreño. There's still plenty of time, but ideally you want to get yourself on pole early. And if you don't have to do a second run, that's even better. But it looks planted through that sector. Barely any movements on the steering or corrections on the steering there. 31.6 in the first sector. That is fastest of anybody through that sector so far. Gently back on the power. He's waiting and waiting for the car to come back to him on the way through, but very nicely indeed from the Spaniard. Back to the right-hand side, back to the left again, using a lot of curb through there all the way out to the wall on the right-hand side. Looks really good so far from the young Spaniard. Keeping an eye on sector number 2. Let's see what the split will be. It was going to be a 59.6 again, fastest of anybody. All to the right-hand side then, using the curb to almost turn the car through there and heading down towards the last sector now. It's almost completely flat to the last corner right now, but this is looking very good. 26.93 for Tom Manley. How about that from Tom Manley? Great effort. 27.2 from Jack West. And let's see now. Pedreño was looking neat and tidy. 27-0 from Max Wissel. This is really good stuff from these guys. Here comes Pedreño now across the start-finish line. 26.95. Not as quick as Manley on the first runs. Very, very close, but excellent, excellent job by Tom Manley to get himself just 0.02 of a second quicker than Ruben Pedreño.
Yeah, Manley, one of a few drivers this season, himself and Lucas Blakely, that are on multiple pole positions. Yet to turn that, though, into a victory. Ismail Fassi just misses out on joining them in the 126 club. 127.009 puts him in towards third place for now. Mirko Soriano has invalidated his lap, but what can Jarno Opmeer do? I think, again, this might be, it could actually be a fresh set of tyres for Jarno Opmeer after his Q1 escapade, so we'll see what he can do as he heads towards the line. 126.961, 28 thousandths of a second, separating the top 3 drivers, the top 4, all within 1/10 of a second, and we've still got the rest of the pack, obviously, to put on their fresh tyres. We're getting all sorts of predictions in the track. Drake's name coming up a few times. Jack West coming up after his fantastic run last time around. It's certainly going to be a close one.
Certainly is. Jarno definitely in the hunt for pole then, by the looks of it. 26.961, just about. That is so close between himself and Ruben Pedreño as well, isn't it? Just 0.02 of a second separating himself and Ruben Pedreño, and about 300ths between himself and Tom Manley as well. So 300ths covering the top 3, and less than 0.1 of a second, 700ths covering the top 4. Ismail Fassi as well may have his bacon saved if we have that lobby restart to remove those grid drops from Ishmael and from Jack Laverty, both of which have made it through to Q3, so that'll be a big help to them. So Mirko Soriano, is he on a push lap right now? It's quite not. He's not at the moment. He invalidated his previous run, just getting back to the pit lane. But right now, this section of qualifying is the calm before the storm. The first runs are over. There'll be about a couple of maybe 20-30 seconds of guys sitting in pit lane, getting new tyres on, and then we'll have the shootout for pole position.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Mr. Kanan. It is all going to get very calm now in this session. We're just hearing that because he did actually block Tino on his lap, Ismail might still have 5 seconds of that, well, 5 places of that penalty, but the second 5-place penalty, which occurred on an out lap, is obviously complete rubbish, so that will not be happening. Every driver is back in the pits at the moment. The only one of those that is yet to set a time on any set of tyres is Mirko Soriano, out of those that have done times on fresh sets of tyres. Well, Manley, Pedreño, Opmeer, Fassi and Wiesel certainly has. Jack West possibly, although it would not surprise me if that was a U set. Laverty, Dempsey and Akinci down there at the moment. Expect to see some big improvements from them, and hopefully you can expect to see some movement in the pit lane soon. 2 minutes 47 seconds, not long to go whatsoever. Someone is heading his way out on track, and it's going to be Jack West. He's going to be the first man to head out their circuit, and again, leaving it this late, everyone is guaranteed that they are only going to get one shot in what could be a very important qualifying session.
Absolutely, indeed. So Jack West, if that 27.2 is on a used set of tyres, then that is a very good lap, a very, very good lap on used tyres. So now he's definitely got a fresh set on that AlphaTauri, and is in P6 on the 27.2, and was certainly in the hunt for pole position here. Any one of these guys really could snatch pole position around this Jeddah Corniche circuit. It's all getting a little bit tight for space in the first sector here. Jack Laverty just making his way through past Max Wissel here as they just sort themselves out behind. Mirko Soriano now, he's the man who's got to push to get himself a time on the board. He hasn't managed to do that just yet, and any sort of improvement would be good for him. But now we wait to see the final runs in Q3. Everyone's on the track and nobody's crossed the line just yet to get themselves a spot on the potential pole position here as they come up towards the last corner. Now Jack West will get us underway then. This is exciting, Luke, because really any one of these guys could take it.
I mean, yes, certainly. We've said it so far this season. I think we've had 7 different pole sitters in the 9 races. You can see everyone further back just trying to burn some fuel off at the moment, revving the engine, riding the brakes at the same time, trying to just burn any additional fuel. Jack West, he's just going to make sure that he's got enough fuel and enough tyres and enough ERS. One final 6.174 kilometre blast around this circuit in qualifying session number 3. A little bit wild over the curb there at turn number 1. Looks as though he may have got away with things. We'll wait and see what his sector time is at the first point, because that might give us an indication as to whether he was on fresh tyres or used earlier on here. Just having to obviously take that little bit of a left through there, feathering the throttle. Sector 1 time coming up now for Jack West, and it is a 31.722. He's 2 tenths up on his personal best. If he can carry anywhere near that speed for the rest of the lap time, this is going to send records tumbling in this qualifying session. Already Jack West looking very good indeed to mix himself with the best of everyone. Ruben Pedreño, he's invalidated, so he's not going to be able to go on pole position. Drake Dempsey, he heads towards the finish line. Obviously, he finding tons of time as well. And we'll just check what Tom Manley's time is before we head back towards his teammate. Manley is also improving. Jack West not improving as much in the middle sector. This still looks so it could be a fascinating lap.
Certainly could, yeah, so that's a disaster for Pedreño. He will not be on pole position, but Jack West is improving and improving. He's found another 2 tenths in the middle sector there for Jack West, so really good effort from the Alpha Tower. He's looking really good right now to try and snatch pole position. I think the first car that will cross the line to set a time is going to be Jack West. 27.0, not enough to snatch pole, only a tenth of a second off though. Drake Dempsey will be next then, and in the Alfa Romeo, coming up to the last corner right now. Got to get that turn, and he does get it turned in. Back on the power nicely, straightening it out towards the run for the line. Now the shortest possible run to the line he needs. Here comes Drake Dempsey. Does he get pole? Not quite. Second place for Drake Dempsey for now. Next across the line, Laverty. He's invalidated this time though. Next up to cross the line is going to be Tom Manley. There's a 26.720. He's found 2 tenths of a second. Ishmael Fassi just behind him on a 7.89. Next across the line, Mikko Suriano. He crosses the line for P6 for now. Max Vissel next across the line, P3, 26.802. Chana Kinchi in the Ferrari. What can he do? P4 for him. Last up is Jarno Watmir. Does he have anything left in the tank to snatch pole position? He does not. It's P3 for him. What a stunning lap from the Alpha Tauri. They're 26.720. Tom Manley and Ishmael Fassi and Jarno Watmir on the same time in second and third.
Yeah, that is pretty damn close, to say the least. Tom Manley takes his 3rd pole position of the season. Can he convert it to his first victory, and a victory that would very likely give him 2nd place in the championship for now? Ismail Fassi and Jarno Watmir on identical times. Max Wiesel also within 1 tenth of a second. He starts 4th. Akinci, Dempsey, Pedreño, after invalidating one of his worst qualifyings for a while, in 7th. Suriano, Jack West and Jack Laverty, they round out the top 10. And now it is the calm before the storm. We have got, of course, this restart that is going to be happening, so everyone can just calm down, get ready, make sure they've got to remember to put the setup back on when they get back in. I mean, we knew qualifying was going to be pretty close. I don't think we expected to see so many drivers, though, getting into the 126s.
No, I didn't think it was going to be close to mid-26s. 26.7 in the end was the pole time. Such an incredible lap. I did not expect Ishmael Fassi and Jarno Watmir to be setting exact times as well, exact same times in 2nd and 3rd. So less than a tenth between the top 4, I think it was in the end. Impressive performance from Tom Manley. Very impressive from Ishmael Fassi as well, you have to say. So he'll be delighted with this restart. That he'll at least get 1 penalty removed. He will have that 5 place penalty. So it will be Jarno Watmir who's actually on the front row either way for this race as well. But at least he has the time to prove that he did it. It was the same time as Ishmael Fassi. There's a direct correlation there, I suppose. So Ishmael Fassi is going to drop to a couple of places back. He's going to drop 5 places back. So Jarno Watmir on the front row with Tom Manley. So interesting front row, I have to say. Yeah, I don't think the front row you would have predicted. Well, probably would have predicted, obviously, Tom being right up there. Ismail with his penalty, I don't think we would have expected. And Jarno's qualifying this season hasn't been the best. But as we said, he is right up there. We're just going to confirm what the grid is going to be for you now after all of the penalties and after everything has run out. So it is going to be Manley and Otmir on the front row of the grid. Max Wiesel, arguably the most experienced man in the field with his real-life racing experience. He will be starting in 3rd place. Chana Kinchi in 4th position. Drake Dempsey rounding out that top 5 then. And then further back, we have got Ruben Pedreño, Ismail Fassi, Mirko Soriano, Jack Laverty, Jack West, Tino Naukarainen, Istvan Pukki, Modesto Mena, Alessio De Capua, Dylan Warren, Jake Benham starting a long way down the order in 16th place.
Then we have, I've got Luke Smith a long way down the order as well in 17th. Carter Lundy 18th. Will Lewis will be coming in as a last-minute replacement for Caden Lutz. He will be starting 19th. And another loser in all of that. He did have a qualifying ban, and because of the reset, Sander Van Dijken has been sent to the back. He'll be feeling pretty aggrieved, I think, with that one. But I mean, it shows how crazy this track can be, that at one minute we were talking about a man who set no attempt at all in qualifying, or was almost starting in 17th.
Yeah, I know. So he is unfortunately not going to be the beneficiary of other people's downfalls in this case. So unfortunate for Xander there, but he is going to serve his qualifying ban either way. Lobby's now open. Will get populated in a second. This will be take a little bit of time, of course, because poor old Luke Smith is now going to set the grid for this race. That might take a bit of time while we wait for everybody to get in as well. So do bear with us while that happens as well. Just, of course, to clear up as well, why are we restarting? Well, sometimes the game gives out glitched penalties for no contact or slight contact. It'll give you a 5-place grid drop, even if it wasn't, in the case it was, impeding somebody, even if you weren't in the way at all. Sometimes that can happen as well. One of them's getting removed because he apparently blocked somebody who on an outlap while that person was on an outlap. So that doesn't really make any sense, does it? So he's getting one of the Ishmael Fassi in that case is getting one penalty removed, but he did impede Tino Nakarinen on his laps in one of those penalty stands, so he will drop 5 places. But Jack Laverty, I think he was the guy who may have got hit by Ishmael. I will have to find that out as well. But so he obviously gets that 5-place grid drop removed as well for being hit in that case. So that's the reason for the restart. That's as well. It should as well prevent, we hope, any connection issues as well. Usually a lobby restart does help out with that as well. So the grid will be set and then we'll get underway. But Will Lewis, very last minute replacement, didn't even do qualifying. Now going to hop straight into a race.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a free shot at this, and knowing Will from this leg and from what I've seen his other performances, he doesn't mind going very different on the strategy. He's the kind of person, in a race this long that's 25 laps, if he has to go 24 laps to have any chance of scoring a point or a good result, he will do so. So don't be too surprised to see him trying something different. In terms of strategy, it's going to be the bog standard F1 2022 strategy, I imagine. Hard tyres to the medium tyres. A few drivers starting further back. Do you think they might be tempted to go for the mediums or just to try to make those moves in the early stages? Potentially the likes of Jake and Luke, esports drivers, who were both out in Q1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it could be that case. I'm sorry, Luke, I really wasn't listening there. I was looking at the YouTube chat. Could you please repeat the question?
It's fair enough. I mean, I'm glad everyone in the YouTube chat is hopefully listening to us. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. It won't be too long before this race is getting underway. I was just saying, we see hard medium so often on this game. Do you think the likes of Jake and Luke, who the esports drivers who both got knocked out in Q1, might be tempted to start on the medium tyres to make moves in the early stages?
Absolutely, yeah, you could definitely see that because it can be, because we know how long it takes with no formation lap either as well. It does take a longer for the hard tires to come into the temperature windows. If you can get your mediums up to temperature before, use them, get some track space between yourself and the others, it could maybe work. You may as well try something, or you could try an outlandish strategy. Or it maybe Will Lewis might try to start on the hards, drive for 24 laps and 6 set softs on at the end and see what happens at the end or something like that. An Alex Albon strategy in Australia. So he pulled that off in real life, of course. We're waiting now for 3 drivers to get into the lobby. Should be very, very soon. But yes, I could certainly see some drivers trying something different. I could even see Jarno trying something different because he's got esports coming. He doesn't want to show his hand, does he?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way he's been taking things at the moment. Just taking every single race as it comes. I mean, second place is a big chance for him. Obviously, he is still in this championship hunt quite comfortably at the moment. Things are very close in that championship. If we get that back up for you on screen just there, you can see Lucas there in the lead. But Jake, Jarno, Tom and Ruben, 8 points separating those drivers for second place. And you've got to say, with Jake having obviously that poor qualifying session, wouldn't be too surprising to see him drop to the bottom of that top 5.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a big opportunity for Jarno to close up the gap to Lucas and also jump Jake as well. Tom Manley as well. He starts on pole, don't forget, as well. So he's got a big opportunity to leapfrog some positions, get himself up into P2 even. But you can see Lucas has got such a large lead in that championship as well. And no matter what happens, he will still lead the championship after this round. But the lead will be cut down quite substantially, but he will still have quite a substantial lead going into the next round as well. So waiting for one driver to get into the lobby, still setting the grid, so we can't, so then we'll get underway for 25 laps around Jeddah with Tom Manley on pole, Jarno Wotmir in P2. Very interesting front row. So you can expect guys who decide to, some guys who may decide to start on the mediums, they should, in theory, have the better start grip over in the run to the first corner, because the run to the first corner is not that long.
Yeah, not that long whatsoever. I mean, we just had a quick look, as we saw there, at the track map. 27 corners, 3 DRS zones. We mentioned it is going to be the final one and, well, the final two, really, heading into the final corner, heading out of the final corner, where you're going to see all those, all that interesting action, all that fun and games in the race. I mean, it is possible as well, especially if you've got quite a big advantage with the tyres or someone has a bad run. You can see drivers going side by side through turn number 13. And the banking there, similar to what we saw at Zandvoort, does allow drivers to really try overtakes anyway. But a bit Zandvoort, if you get it slightly wrong, you end up getting pushed onto the gravel, which is bad enough. You get it slightly wrong around here, you ended up in the barrier, and that is going to be race over. And that's always the other thing in these drivers' mind, I think, at street circuits, especially in the early stages. It's sometimes better just to play it a bit safe and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, you know, but there's going to be an element of self-preservation in those first laps. Just try not to get caught up in an instant. Try not to get wing damage, because wing damage, and that's basically race over, as you said, around a street circuit, especially without the downforce that you need. But as well, as we mentioned at the very start of the broadcast, very high possibility of safety car around here because of it is a street circuit. Any crash, the safety car is probably going to make an appearance at some point, maybe even multiple times. Who knows what's going to happen around here? But expect some mix-ups, of course, in the order, I reckon. Some guys trying different strategies to try and jump the guys in front who will stay on the bog standard strategy to, you know, keep their positions, because of course, as we said, the races here in league racing at the moment quite formulaic, quite static in the first half, until we get to the second half, when it all gets into I dropped my pen. It all gets very, very, very hectic is the word I'll use. Hectic.
Yeah, it's going to get busy, I think, in the second stint of this race. That is going to be certain. We mentioned hard to medium is the most likely. Weird quirk of this game, drivers like doing more laps on the medium tyres, than the hard tyres. So possibly even around lap 11, we could be seeing drivers coming in. And a reminder of your grid, as we have now got all 20 drivers in. So if Luke Smith is listening, he might want to listen to this particular bit as we run through the starting order for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Tom Manley on pole position, Jarno Wotmir in second place, Max Wiesel and Cheddar Kinchi on the second row of the grid. Drake Dempsey will be starting in fifth alongside arguably the informed man at the moment, Ruben Pedreño. Ismail Fassi is seventh, Mirko Soriano in eighth. Ismail dropping down after that penalty. Jack Laverty also drops down to ninth after his penalty. And it's all Jacks on the fifth row of the grid, with West alongside him in 10th. Tino Nakarainen and Ishbran Pookie are the sixth row of the grid. And then it's Modesto Mena, Alessio De Capua, Dylan Warren, Jake Benham and Luke Smith. Two young esports stars, 16th and 17th for them. Carter Lundy didn't get a lap in qualifying. Will Lewis has only joined as a late replacement for Caden Lutt. And Xander Van Dyken obviously did have that qualifying ban. And we're not too far away from getting. The grid is ready. All the drivers are starting to ready up. And as we've just run through that grid, sometimes in a street circuit, it's not bad to be out of the back. I mean, at least you can't then get hit from behind, and you can sort of see if you can pick your way through any potential turn one carnage. And I'd be surprised if there wasn't a tiny bit of contact in that first sector.
Absolutely, yeah. So waiting to see, the lobby was updated with the wrong setting, so that now the grid has to be reset again. So now the poor, unfortunate Luke Smith has got to put everyone in the correct spaces and sort everyone out. So I think from what I saw there, the grid was going to be inverted from where what qualifying was. So we would have had Xander Van Dyken with the qualifying badge starting on pole, which would have been interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to a reverse grid race, to be fair.
I mean, yeah, Limited Media wanted it, and then they didn't realise WOR was going to be the way that we're going to get it. But here we go. We've got a new crazy ideas here. There is no reverse grid. It is going to be a nice normal grid, and I'm sure everyone will be pretty happy with that. I think if we're going to introduce reverse grid into Formula 1, I'm not sure doing it around the fastest street circuit on the calendar is the best place to do it. Talking about the calendar, we will run through what that is going to be throughout the rest of the season. So next week, it's going to be the final one before we have a couple of break weeks. So Mexico Grand Prix next week on October the 16th. Then 2 break weeks for the real-life Formula 1. We tried to get them to move it. They said no. Unfortunately, USGP and the Mexican Grand Prix will be back for our US Grand Prix on November the 6th. Another break week, Japan and Brazil. The final break week before December 11th, the championship finale at Abu Dhabi. And it is still absolutely wide open as to who is going to be taking that championship. Lucas Blakely in the lead. He's not here tonight. Hopefully we'll get to see him possibly towards the end of the season once things in esports start to slow down. But behind him, it is very close indeed. 8 points separating Venom, Opmia, Manly and Pedreño. And 2 of them starting on the front row of the grid. And we said earlier on, Opmia's weakness has, if he's got any, has arguably been his qualifying. He's starting on 2nd place. This is by far and away his best opportunity to take that first victory this season. Likewise, for the man starting on pole position.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think Yarda's even admitted himself, his race pace has been incredible, but the qualifying this season just hasn't quite been there. So back up on the front row, an excellent opportunity for him to get himself up there and take the fight to Lucas Blakely into the last few rounds of the championship. We'd love to see a title battle between Jarno and Lucas, of course, almost reflecting the current F1 esports situation. Of course, Lucas leading that championship at the current phase of the championship. Of course, a couple more rounds coming on Wednesday. Looking forward to that. And Lucas, of course, trying to go for the, I suppose, coveted league racing double, win the WOR championship and win the PSGL PC championship. I don't think there's not been many that's done that, so that would be a massive a jewel in the crown. And if you could top that off with F1 esports, that would be a great advertisement for league racing.
Yeah, the trifecta almost would not be that bad whatsoever. We can tell you, big breaking news, the countdown has almost finished. 1 second to go. We are heading in towards the lobby. Check the description if you want to check out our Discord. You can see our Twitter handle up ahead. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Plenty of action throughout the week. Top PlayStation tier on Friday, and of course our top Xbox tier on the Monday, where Otis Lawrence, FRA Elite, is putting on a fantastic job at the moment, but couldn't quite hold on in wet conditions last time around. Hopefully tonight, no one will have to bother about wet conditions. I imagine it will be dry all the way, as we are just loading into the session, and things look very dry indeed.
Yeah, I was holding on to a bit of hope that it might be wet. But anyways, I think the dry races are far more interesting with strategy anyways. So a dry race around Saudi Arabia, heading into the night, of course, starting at dusk and heading into the night phase. And then we'll wait for the drivers to ready up, of course. No formation lap, so no chance to get temperature in the tyres. If you're starting on the hard compound tyres, you're going to struggle off the line. Some guys may try the mediums just to see if they can make some ground up. Some guys may even go softs and see what happens. The softs may be able to go quite long because, of course, although there's a lot of high-speed corners, there's also a lot of straights around here. So maybe they might be able to go longer than we think on those soft compound tyres and make some really big gains.
Yeah, I think especially if we do get a safety car, then starting on the hard tyres is bad. You have to use two different types of dry tyre in a race. So starting on the hards, if there's an early safety car, pretty much guarantee that you are going to have to come into the pits again. It is not ideal whatsoever. They'll be hoping that there is no safety car. We're just all hoping for 25 laps of sublime action. Who is going to rule here on the streets of Saudi Arabia? We will find out in about 35 minutes' time. We've got 5 lights. And we're underway with the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. What are the starts like at the front of the grid? Not a bad start whatsoever from Jarno Opmia. He's already down the inside in towards turn 1. Opmia leads, and Max Wiesel now trying to get around the outside of our pole sitter as well. Opmia in the lead in towards turn 1. Yellow flag as Jet Levity is out of the race. There's debris. There's all sorts happening in the background. We've got a full course yellow. Is it for a full safety car? It is indeed. Saudi Arabia doing what Saudi Arabia does.
Well, that was a big incident in the back. Carter Lundy and Jack Laverty. Laverty getting spun around in the middle of the pack. Carter Lundy, unfortunately, getting caught up in the middle of it as well. But I tell you what, Jarno Watmere, brilliant start. Got around the outside, or he got up the inside of Manley, which gave him the outside for the next corner. But he was able to just pinch Manley on the apex, drive around the outside, and he now leads with a full safety car immediately. The guys in the mediums did not make progress. Tino Nakarinen's actually missing his front wings. He's been in the wars. It's completely come off in the middle there. Xander Van Dijken from 20th is already up to 14th on those mediums. So that safety car is going to help him look after those mediums as well. So that's worked out for Xander Van Dijken. And yeah, great start from Jarno Watmere overall right there. So he's now into the lead of this race, and Xander Van Dijken is now one of the best movers, up 6 places. Luke Smith up 5, up to 11 places, the other big mover in this race. But great stuff from Jarno Watmere, all clean into the first corner as well. Got around the outside, drove around the outside.
Yeah, just nice and clean, easily done there by Jarno Watmere. So taking the lead of this race, and we'll see what the drivers do at the moment. I'll be surprised if we see any of our leaders coming into the pit lane on that set of the hard tyres. Tino, we know, definitely will be doing. Intriguing to see what Xander does at the moment. I think just possibly a bit too early for what he would have wanted. We have got someone coming into the pits though, and that is Jack West. We'll just wait and see whether he got any damage at the start of this race. We're sort of in and thereabouts where Jack Laverty was, and yes, he has got some damage. Soft tyres going on. Now, he could carry those on and pit later on, or he could just be running and doing one lap on that set of soft tyre and then waiting to see, and then going back onto a set of hards. Jake Benham has also come into the pits. He's put on a set of the soft tyres, I think, trying something similar. And Modesto Mena and Tino Nakainen, those other drivers into the pits. So we have got that safety car. As we said earlier on, that's Xander Van Dijken up another position now, and this is effectively a good thing for those on the hard tyres. It's a chance to now obviously build up that little bit of temperature.
Yeah, any temperature that they would not have had at the start. So this will help them out a lot. But of course, those guys now on the softs, they've got a couple of laps behind the safety car to look after the soft compound tyres and take them a little bit longer and see what they can do. Switch on to mediums then and go to see if they can go to the end. We'll see if it works for them. In the meantime, Jake Benham, Jack West and Modesto Mena have all gone on those softs. Tino has switched on to a set of hards, so he was started on the mediums, don't forget. He's going to try and take them as maybe try and get them to the end of the Grand Prix. So let's see if Tino can do it. There's a little bit of swapping going on behind there between Will Lewis and Xander Van Dijken. Has Will Lewis got damage on the Aston Martin, or was there just a confusion about who was where? I think somebody's got an illegal overtake and trying to give it back was Xander Van Dijken there, so maybe he passed him under the safety car and was desperately trying to let him through, but couldn't. Will Lewis wasn't quite getting the message, and they eventually sorted it out.
Yeah, thankfully it has sorted it out, and everyone's just slamming on the brakes as Suriano and Fassi swap round as well, so I'm sure they'll get that sorted out between them. Everyone is now up onto the back of the safety car pack, so hopefully by the end of the next lap, we will be able to go running once again here, Season 13 of WOR. Make sure to check out our sponsors, Grid Finder, as well, because I'm not too surprised to see everyone who started on the soft tyres diving straight back into the pits. They have done their one racing lap on a set of the soft tyres, so it's the original hards going back on that will take them towards the end. And I think Sider was the one who spotted this in the chat as well, one of our Xbox Tier 1 drivers. Jake Benham had to have a front wing change, so did he hit the wall on that lap under the safety car?
I thought he did, but I was waiting for chat to also see if they'd spotted it as well. He did definitely hit the wall twice on the way down towards the back corner and damage the wing, so that's a disaster for him. The man who actually decided what's made it work now for Tino is, of course, he started on medium tyres and is now on hard, so he's actually gained out of all that and is on the same strategy now as the rest of the guys behind him, so he's gained some track position there. So Tino really is the lead car of those that can go to the end on those set of tyres, and maybe breaking his front wing off wasn't a bad thing.
No, a little bit of a tactical front wing break there, if there is ever such a thing, given the Williams seems a bit of joy tonight. Jack Laverty out pretty much before they even got round turn number 3, and Carter Lunda joining him in the Alpha. Tino getting that front wing damage, but he does not have to come into the pits again. He has done his one compulsory pit stop. He has used both compounds of tyres, as has Jack West, as has Modesto Mena, as has Jake Benham. If you want to join our league, check out the Discord for all the different leagues. We have PlayStation, we have PC, we have Xbox, all sorts of levels in terms of driver skill are accommodated for, so make sure to give that a try. Safety car is coming in this lap, but it is all up now to Jarno Uppbeat to control the field. I imagine he's going to go quite late. The last thing you want to do is give Tom Manley, Max Wiesel and the rest of the pack a lovely slipstream down towards turn 1.
Absolutely, so he's weaving left to right. He needs to get temperature in those tyres before he launches. So when does he decide to go? As he said, look, I think he's going to go quite late here. Or maybe he'll catch them out and go early. Out of the corner. He's gone now, hasn't he? He's gone now on the exit and he's left Tom Manley behind. Look at that. Tom Manley's under pressure now from Max Wiesel. He's having to use the energy to stay in front. Great restart from Jarno Uppbeat. Gets us back underway. To come down towards the first corner now. Still trying to get temperature in the tyres. Weaving left to right in the background is one of the Haas's, Mikko Suriano, trying to get temperature in the tyres. Jarno Uppbeat leads from Tom Manley, from Max Wiesel. Great restart from him there, and it's all going to settle in now into what we'd imagine is going to be the DRS train now. So this is going to be one to watch now, but I think the man really see if he can make any progress as I go on board with him there. Zander Van Dijken on medium. Let's see if he can make these work in this big long train of cars.
Yeah, obviously no DRS now until lap number 6. First time they'll be able to use it is just on the run coming out of, I believe, turn number 17 it is the first time they'll be able to use it on lap number 6. And that's pretty much bad news for Zander. So he wants to make the moves now before the DRS is active while he's got extra grip on those medium tyres. And as someone said, it's an 18-car Merc sandwich at the moment. Jarno in the lead, Jake in last place. So as things stand at the moment, Jarno Uppbeat would be taking second in the championship as Zander Van Dijken almost having to cut the corner there going alongside Will Lewis. Things getting very feisty between the two former PlayStation chargers. Let's not forget, Zander Van Dijken, back in his VRT Ballina days, did win the championship on the PS platform as well. Lewis way too late on the brakes in towards turn number 22 and 23 there, and he is down into 14th. And the way he understeered around that corner makes me think that Aston Martin might have a tiny bit of damage from somewhere.
Yeah, Tino Nakarainen pouncing as well. Remember, he's the lead car on the guys that should be able to try and take the hard tyres to the end of the race. Jake Benham getting past Modesto Mena in the background up to P17 he goes. So Tino now chasing after Zander Van Dijken. He can use him as almost a bulldozer, get everyone else out of the way in front, because he knows Zander will have to pit again. He's going to have to pit to take his mandatory pit stop, and Tino can just use him to maybe try and make up some places here. Will Lewis sticking in behind as well. So no change up front now. Jarno Uppbeat in the lead by half a second over Tom Manley. They're two of them starting to gap Max Wiesel just slightly now. Max having to use a bit more energy to stay in front, but of course now it's all about trying to keep yourself in the fight here. Chanakinchi doing a good job to stick with these guys actually. He's actually got the most battery charge out of anybody. He's got 75% battery compared to Max Wiesel's 45% and 38% currently for Tom Manley, 44 for Jarno Uppbeat. So Chanakinchi is actually in a very good spot here. He's got energy to burn and it should be able to keep him safely within the DRS range of the cars in front.
Yeah, we've seen a few racers follow this pattern. I think, Spain was a particular one where drivers tried to break away as much as possible. I think Tom Manley tried it with Pedreño, tried to break away that 1 second gap, couldn't quite do it. And then things obviously do end up gathering themselves back together. DRS will be activated next time around, and as things stand at the moment, the entire field would be in that DRS train as Zander Van Dijken's got a pretty good run here again on Alessio Di Capua, dives it down the inside. That one just a bit too keen from Van Dijken. The two of them make contact, and that is just going to drop them a long way down the field, and this might give Tino Nakarainen a bit of an opportunity to make a move into us turn number 1 in the end. Hasn't got the straight line speed, and I think Tino wise enough to play the long game. Jarno, though, he's flying at the moment. He's burnt up his battery, and he's dropped Tom Manley by more than a second.
Yeah, he just had a tiny bit more out of the final corner to just break away. So Manley's got to use up his tyres now to try and get back in DRS range of the cars in front, because Max Wiesel still has DRS on him, but Jarno is breaking away. 1.3 seconds now the gap to Tom Manley and continuing to pull away. This is a great performance so far from these two up the front. But Jarno now clear DRS. Tom Manley trying to break away from Max Wiesel. He won't be able to do so. The first DRS detection point is coming up very, very soon. It's going to be so marginal there as they come across the detection point. Did Max get it? He certainly did by just a couple of thousandths, and he wasn't quite able to do that to get away from Max Wiesel, and he just stays in shouting distance. So the only car that does not, the two cars that do not have DRS in each other now is Jarno Opmeer and Tom Manley. Every car behind Tom Manley has got DRS on the car in front of them. So DRS train behind, but Jarno Opmeer now managing the gap, 1.4 seconds up front, and he can now afford to just save that little bit more now as well up the front. And sitting at a 1.5 second gap is Xander Van Dijk, and has he got it done this time on his Capua? Squeeze him to the wall to Capua, getting all sorts of out of shape on the exit there. Van Dijk finally gets through, but he had to use so much to get past right there. Using it up his tires, his batteries burned through as well. And this medium strategy doesn't look like it's going to pay off for him.
Yeah, we're probably only a lap or two away, given the fact that we have a time under the safety car. A lap or two away from those medium tyres being worse than the hard tyres. So the strategy certainly hasn't worked out at the moment for Van Dijken. But crucially, despite all that battling, he's still within DRS range of the car in front, Dylan Warren. He is still in this long train that starts with Tom Manley. 1.5 seconds off the lead of this race at the moment. Just trying to regain a bit of battery, save a bit more as Max Wiesel gets extremely close to the wall. Coming out of turn number 13, Manley will be determined to move his way up the order. Thus, he started on pole at the Spanish Grand Prix, finished in second place. He started on pole at the Belgian Grand Prix, finished in second place. He is so desperate to get that first win on the PC platform and join a very elite list of drivers to have won on the Xbox side of things and on the PC side of things as well in the top tier. Our reigning champion, of course, in the Xbox tier. Jarno just keeping that gap comfortable at the moment at about 1.4, 1.5 seconds. One lap of undercut, though, could send Opmeer right back in towards DRS range, of course.
Certainly could, yeah. And Manley is just sitting pretty at the moment. Max Wiesel just being patient behind, doesn't want to overtake him or attack too early. Chana Kinchi putting pressure. Xander Van Dijken's now in the pits from those medium tyres and is switching off of that strategy as quickly as he can. Onto the hard tyres now. And he might maybe want to watch later on in the Grand Prix. But, of course, with all those guys under the safety car getting the free pit stop, switch on to softs and then on to hards, he's going to have a mammoth task ahead of him to bridge the gap back to try and gain some positions here. And ideally, a safety car may help him, but it's a long way to go now for Xander Van Dijken. Tom Manley starting just to eke away at that gap, isn't he? The two of them are saving 1.2 seconds now, the gap between Opmeer and Manley. Similar levels of battery available. So was Manley just managing the gap now, and he's starting to maybe pile some pressure. He's actually breaking away a bit from Max Wiesel now.
Yeah, as we said, this is the opposite situation to what he was in Spain. He was the one trying to pull away at the front of the field. Did it for a lap or two, and then Pedreño was able to get back in towards contact. So we'll see whether Manley saved a bit more of his tyres here. Gets a very good exit out of there. Keeps in that gap around about 1.2 seconds. You never know, he might just have a slight possibility. Won't happen on this lap, but he is not too far away from being able to get back within DRS range, and that would really close this race back up and bring everyone back into the four. No such closing up needed, though, with a battle for the final podium slot at the moment. Max Wiesel and Chana Kinchi in that lovely Ferrari, still with the yellow detailing, which we will be seeing from the official Ferrari esports team in the next round of esports in the middle of the week. They have decided to stick with that livery. They had the choice between the two of them. At the moment, Chana Kinchi using that car to good effect in fourth place, putting Max Wiesel, well, I'd say he's putting Max Wiesel under all sorts of pressure. I get the feeling if Chan wanted to, he could. But win the first stint of the race, he's just playing the long game. He's just keeping it nice and calm, saving all of his battery. Xander Van Dijken has retired from the session.
That's unfortunate for Xander, with qualifying ban and everything. Not going to finish this Grand Prix. But you can see Chana Kinchi, he's really been managing all the way through this first stint. Has nearly got 80% in the battery. Hasn't really been using it. He's got lots to attack with. Wiesel's now been saving up as well. He's got 57% in the tank. Manley now and Opmeer sort of trading blows at the moment. Jarno opening it back out to 1.3 seconds on this lap, but very, very evenly matched on the times. Overall, Manley brought it down to 1.1 in the previous lap. Jarno bringing it back up to 1.3, close to 1.4 seconds on this lap. But as we sort of expected, this first part of the Grand Prix is DRS train territory until we get to the pit stops. Will Lewis and Tino Nakarinen swapping places. And Tino, of course, now, that won't be ideal for him. He's trying to get these tyres to the end. Of course, he's also trying to maintain and look after these tyres. Doesn't want to be fighting too hard. So I would imagine that would have been a relatively easy overtake for Will Lewis in the end. But you can see he lets him through there. So they're going to be very much managing the tyres towards the end. As Max Vissel now, he's starting to go on the attack here. Chanakinchia maybe pushing him along a little bit as well. So they're all starting to punch up as we get closer and closer to pit stops here. Tom Manley coming under increasing pressure from the cars behind.
Yeah, he is. Vissel trying to put that bit of pressure on at the moment. Kinchi also trying, a man we've not spoken about too much in terms of the race. Ruben Pedreño in 5th. Still don't write him off at the moment, as you can see this train of cars making its way around turn number 13. First pit stops, I'd have expected around about lap 11 for the first drivers starting to come into the pits. Given the fact that we've had a safety car, you might see it stretch more towards 12 and 13. But if you are further back in the train, you might be thinking, is it worth risking it? Is it worth trying to do that undercut and just hoping that the tyres do last until the end of the race? Someone who's now starting to look very racy indeed. Let's not forget, he was second in qualifying. It is Ismail Fassi trying to recover from that 5th-place penalty for blocking Tino Nakarinen in qualifying. We'll see what Isma can do here. So close he gets to the back of the Alfa Romeo. Can't do anything down the straight. Someone who might be able to, though, is Ruben Pedreño. Can he try it round the outside into turn number 27? Chanakinchi. He's going to try and hold off to that one. These two fighting is going to be music to the ears of those ahead of them.
Absolutely, yeah. A brave attempt from Pedreño there. Not quite able to pull it off. All fair, though. This is where it's going to start kicking off now. We're getting close to the pit stop phase. Track position is going to be key now. Now, some of these guys need to start thinking about maybe going for the undercut now, because everyone's so closely bunched up together. And there's guys who are looking quicker now as they get into this phase. Altmir's still very comfortable out in front at 1.5 seconds clear, and he's also saving battery at the same time. Manley doing the same as well. Max Vissel still comfortable at 80% battery as well. Chanakinchi in a similar situation as well. So they've all been charging up the batteries now to defend from attacks as well. And it's getting very close into the back corners there. Drake Dempsey ever so slightly wide, but losing 1/10 of a second. Ishmael Fassi behind, who had to think about going for it on the previous lap in the second DRS zone here. So let's see if he gets the run. He did get a decent exit there, and he's on the battery. He's using now down the straight. It's maybe an overtake attempt from Ishmael Fassi. Dempsey defending, boosting down the straight with the battery. He will stay in front, and it is getting very tight indeed. You've got a feeling pit stops are coming up very soon for one of these guys at least. Yeah, you can see the spanner up on Drake Dempsey's screen at the moment. That's the game telling him he needs to come into the pits. He's got absolutely no reason to listen to that if he doesn't want to do so. Wouldn't surprise me if Fassi comes in, because he looks as though he is being just held up slightly at the moment. We'll see if any cars peel off towards the left-hand side. None ahead of them. It doesn't look like any behind. I think they're sticking on those hard tyres, not wanting to go too long on the mediums, given the fact that we've had a safety car early on. An exception to that rule, though, is Will Lewis. He is into the pits then at the end of lap number 11 as well. He will be going on to the mediums. Someone who we said normally likes going quite long is going to try something different. A very aggressive undercut here, I think, just to see if he can get himself back involved with that DRS train ahead, as he had dropped further back. And talking about dropping further back, Max Vissel, don't know whether he's made a slight mistake, but all of a sudden, gap between him and Tom Manley just stretching to about 0.7 of a second. Yeah, he's in a very conservative mode right now as Max Vissel. He's got 80%, but again, as you are rightly saying, he did drop back a couple of tenths that lap. Either that or Manley's picked up the pace here, and it's just ebbing away a little bit, closing up to Uppbeat as well. 1.2, 1.1 it comes down to on this lap as well. So it is getting ever more exciting in this case as well. But remember those guys who pitted early onto those hard tires under the safety car. They will not have to pit again. Keep that in mind. Everybody from Tino upwards has to pit. Tino, Jack West, Jake Benham, Modesto, they do not have to pit again in this Grand Prix. They should be able to get to the end. Keep that in mind. Manley getting closer and closer and closer to Uppbeat. He's agonisingly close to DRS. Doesn't have it this time, as in comes Chanakinchi, the first one to pull the trigger. Chanakinchi pulls the trigger then. A few other drivers, Ismail Fassi also coming into the pits, getting rid of those hard tyres, going on to a set of mediums. As you can see there, Manley's done it. Manley has briefly
got back within that 1 second mark. This might be the lap to burn all of that to burn all of that DRS. Burn his DRS, try and get back up and just see what can happen. And Max Wiesel was able to stay along with him. Akinci and Fassi come out. They're a long way behind the likes of Maynard, Benham, West, and now Karainen. Those hard tyres, though, are going to feel absolutely dreadful at the end of this race. And, of course, by doing that, Akinci and Fassi now going to cope with the tyre warm-up. Now going to cope with no DRS, but their tyres will be much, much better. The gap coming out of the pits, 19.7 seconds between Uppbeat and Akinci. We'll keep an eye on that to see how it shrinks down, or possibly see how it grows in the first part of this lap. We are pretty much at the halfway point. Lap number 13 out of 25. Uppbeat leading the race, and Manley in second. Max Wiesel in third. Pedreño and Dempsey in fourth and fifth. But we have now seen a few of the lead cars start to make their way into the pits, and you can see the gap just starting to come down between Akinci and those ahead. And he wasn't too far off this battle, so it's not out of the realms of the possibility here that we could see Chad Akinci possibly, well, I think probably, come out of the pits ahead of Max Wiesel, possibly even Tom Manley as well, as there comes Manley in towards the pit lane.
Oh, Dempsey getting the 5-second penalty for speeding as well. That's going to drop him quite a ways down as they come out. But this is now an undercut attempt from Chan Akinci. This is what he needs to do now. Needs to be pushing hard. Got to watch that gap as they come through. Dempsey into the pit lane. Manley coming down the pit straight now as well in the pit lane. Watch for Chan Akinci on the left of your picture now as they come into turn number 1. This is an undercut attempt from Chan Akinci. Has he done it? It's so close to the pit exit. He has done it. He's got in front of Manley by the slimmest of margins right there. Excellent outlap from Chan Akinci. That's not what Tom Manley wanted to see, was the back of a Ferrari, but that's going to worry Jarno Watmere right now. This could be an excellent call from Chan Akinci at Ferrari.
Yes, it could. I mean, I think at the very least, if it doesn't make the move work, it's got these guys back in towards DRS range. Max Wiesel's nearly done it anyway, just staying out of there. And I think, depending on what it is across the line here, he might have just dropped outside at the detection point. But now they're burning up their battery. Now they know, hang on, lads, we've got to get into the pits pretty sharpish. Otherwise, our chance of getting the victory in this race could be just ebbing away. Fantastic undercut attempt. Well, fantastic undercut successfully by Chan Akinci, and because his tyres are warmed up, and because Fassi's tyres were warmed up as well, they've been able to streak away from the cars behind. Dempsey was all over the back of Ismail Fassi. Now he's outside of DRS range, and with that 5-second penalty, he's going to find himself in big, big pressure in this race. So surely now, the rest of this lead pack is coming in. Uppbeat, we've seen him do this before. We saw him do it at Spain. Uppbeat decides to stay out, as I think Max Wiesel had some sort of weird glitch coming into the pit lane there. His car completely stopped, and that will have held up all the cars behind him.
Could that be a decisive factor then? Onto the mediums goes Max Wiesel. Just about comes out in front of Pedreño on the way through. Fastest lap for Fassi as they come down the pit straight now. There goes Akinci. There goes Manley. Will now anybody else jump them as well? They're going to fall down behind all of these guys. So tight on the pit exit. Pedreño just nipping in front of Dempsey, but they've lost all that time now, fighting side by side into the corner now, getting in front as well. Wiesel desperately trying to stay in front of the cars behind him as well. No tyre temperature in the tyres of Pedreño at the moment. Off the road goes Dempsey in the middle as well. It's all kicking off behind. Luke Smith gets his way through in the end, but after all of that, Chan Akinci comes out in front of Fassi. Wiesel gets in front of Pedreño as well, so he didn't quite gain from that, but of course he's got 2 lap fresher tyres to Fassi. But Chan Akinci is now the net race leader, but Manley is all over his rear, and he's got loads of battery. Look at this now, he's on the attack down the straight, doesn't even have DRS, he's using the battery. Tom Manley side by side with Chan Akinci through the middle sector with DRS, gets himself in front. That's what he needs to do. Now he's got clean air to push and keep himself in front of Uppbeat.
Yeah, Manley flying then on this lap, now that he's got those tyres up to temperature. Now Karainen and Jack West having a battle further back. Let's not forget, these cars don't have to come into the pits. Now Karainen, West, Benham and Maynard all having their own little ding-dong here, but they're only about 6 seconds ahead of this battle for what is the net lead at the moment. Jarno Watmere and Istvan Pukki have both come into the pits. They're getting rid of their medium tyres, going on to set of hard tyres. Round the outside goes West. There's contact. Now Karainen, I think surely with damage, Jake Benham somehow gets through all of that scot-free. As further back, we'll see what's happening here. Manley and Akinci both jump Jarno Watmere.
Uppbeat didn't lose as much time as I thought he would, Luke. He's got to get temperature in the tyres, of course, but he nearly got out in front of Chanakinchi. That small battle that they had in the middle sector almost cost them. But you can see now he's got no tyre temperature, and he's losing all of that time to Chanakinchi and Tom Manley in front. So drops to P3. So Tom Manley leads. Chanakinchi second at the moment in the net P2. Jarno Uppbeat net P3 at the moment. But of course now, all of these guys in front, well, Jake Benham is now that lead car. So Tino Nakarinen, who dropped to the tail of that field. Remember, these guys are staying out until the end of the Grand Prix. So Tom Manley, Chanakinchi, all those guys, they've got to pass these guys on track legitimately. So they're going to be fighting for every ounce of track they can get. So the only car that hasn't pitted now is Alessio Di Capua out the front at the moment. So these guys on the hard tires fighting very hard. Modesto Main are going to swap positions with Jake Benham. Now they've got to work with each other. They can't afford to hold each other up here. Tino Nakarinen trying to get past Jack West as well. They're fighting hard, but this is not going to work. Now Chanakinchi as well, getting up to very close to the rear. Tom Manley. This is mental stuff going on here in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and we've still got 8 more laps to go here, folks. It's, well, 9 more laps, sorry. It's going to be absolutely carnage towards the end, and we're going to see that little ding-dong between them, the little mind games of who gets for DRS, who's going to be ahead going into turn number 27, and who's going to be ahead coming into turn number 1, of course, on the pit straight. It's going to be very intriguing to see how they all play this. Picking up the penalty scenario, 5 seconds for Drake Dempsey, speeding in the pit lane. He will not get that removed. 5 seconds for Ismail Fassi as he was battling with Max Wiesel on the way out of the pit lane. We'll wait and see if that one goes to the stewards. If it doesn't, Fassi is going to drop a long, long way down the order just because of how close things are at the moment. This always happens at Saudi Arabia. It always provides great racing on F1 22. And it is not over yet. Maynard, Benham, West, now Kavainen leading, but Manley and the rest of the pack are catching them hand over fist. Surely, even with the DRS, that the top 4 are going to have to assist them. Surely there's no way they can stop the medium pack.
Yeah, but as well, yeah, it looks like it's going to be, they're fighting a losing battle, but they can make it as hard as they possibly can for these guys behind. They tried something different, and fair play for the safety car working to their advantage at this moment. Tino Nakarinen now up behind Jack West, flying up to his ear, giving him a little bump down the straight, actually, bump dropping him into the final corner. But that's obviously going to cost them time as Manley flying up to the rear of him now, but of course he's got to watch his mirrors for Chanakinchi and for Jarno Uppbeat. So any sort of hold up for Tom Manley will drop him into the clutches of them now. Lap 18 of 25 right now, even with these pit stops. Modesto Mena is the net race leader at the moment. He is pitted early. A 3-second time penalty for Max Wiesel. That will hurt his chances of getting any further up the order. Pedreño getting past him there as they came into turn number 1. But Modesto Mena is the leader. Jake Benham is second. And let's see how long, if at all, can they hold on versus the mediums. Because look how quickly Manley's closed up to them.
Oh, it's all over the back of them already, and I think you'd rather be right behind them now than you would heading in towards Sector 1. I mean, Pedreño, I think he was in Qatar when he decided to send that move down the inside of Max Wiesel. But 2 of them made contact. Wiesel's argument will be, look, I had to go off track to avoid a collision. Why do I get a 3-second penalty? Surely there'll be an opportunity for Max to get that removed. But yeah, he's found it quite difficult at the moment. Someone who's not finding it difficult, though, is Tom Manley. Streaks past Tino Nakarinen, and that is Manley up into 4th. And crucially, as well, Lewis picks up a 3-second time penalty, which I believe is our first one for just a straight track limits penalty in terms of multiple warnings. This could be very useful for Tom Manley, having a car in between himself and those behind him. And we'll see whether Chanakinchi, yeah, just headed in towards the final corner. Chan is not close enough, really catches up to the back of Nakarinen under braking. But I think for his own race, he's got to make this move in towards turn number 1. Manley's getting ahead of Jack West. And if Akinchi's behind all these cars into the first sector, this is a superb opportunity for Manley to break away. And there's contact there. Akinchi into the back of Nakarinen.
Yeah, he just caught out by the lack of speed. Look at this. Akinchi finds the gap. Uppbeat uses him and goes through as well. Up the inside, contact between Uppbeat and Akinchi into the corner. Round goes Chanakinchi in turn 2 and around as well. That's Pedreño's around in the wall in the middle sector there. That has gone horrifically wrong for all of those guys so quickly. Contact between Uppbeat and a Kinchy into the corner there, and that has just gifted the race victory surely to Tom Manley on a plate. Uppbeat's still going, but that is potentially completely race deciding. Now Manley's got to get past Benham and Modesto Mena, but that is completely the end of anything, any chance of a victory for Chana Kinchy right there in contact. The slightest of contact, but it sent him round nonetheless, as Manley now on the attack up behind Jake Benham and Modesto Mena. It's only a matter of time. He's got to find a gap. He finds a gap at last using ERS. Can't quite do it though. Jake Benham's got DRS as well. Now he finds the inside for the next corner. They're nearly 3 abreast into the final corner. Benham trying to get through. Manley's desperate to get through. Look at the speed. There's contact in the middle, and round the outside goes Jake Benham and Manley as well. They've somehow come out in one piece. They're going to go 3 wide down the main straight. This is crazy stuff in WOR. Manley on the battery down towards turn 1, gets the both of them on the run to the first corner. Manley's now in the lead on the fresh medium tires. There's more contact behind. This is messy stuff from these guys as they all try to fight their way through. I can't keep up, Luke.
I mean, neither can I. I thought Pedreño had dive-bombed it earlier on Max Fiesel. Jack West, I don't know what he was trying, whether just go past 3 cars in one. I'm pretty much speechless here. That move from West was crazy. Manley decided not to try and overtake anyone into the final corner, but nearly ended up getting wiped out by the carnage that his teammate caused. Now Jack West pulls out of the way to try and slow down. Manley's in the lead of this race. Fastest second with a 5-second penalty. West rage quits on track. That is not going to go down well whatsoever. Manley leads. Fastest second. He's got 5 seconds of penalties. He might get that removed. Reese's got 3 seconds of penalty. He might not get that removed. But Jarno Uppbeat is in that second place here. And Luke Smith, let's not forget, Luke Smith started all the way down in 16th place. He's on for a podium.
Yeah, that is some drive from Luke Smith. He's been under the radar totally, but he's under a lot of pressure from Istvan Pukki in the Haas behind him here as they come down in towards the last corner now. This is still not over, because if Ismail Fassi gets that penalty removed, of course, this could be the fight for the win out of nowhere. Max Vistel 1.8 behind in his Aston Martin car. Then it's Jarno Uppbeat, then it's Luke Smith, and then it's Istvan Pukki just behind him in this one, as they're still going 3 wide down the straight. Jake Benham desperately trying to hang on here. Drake Dempsey up the inside of him into the first corner. One of the Red Bulls running wide. Dylan Warren running wide, and they're going to go 3 wide out of turn 1, and it's almost even more contact. Chana Kinchy still fighting so hard to keep his position here after getting sent around through, arguably, by the looks of it early on, no fault of his own, but certainly crazy stuff going on here in WOR, and I'm not sure how there wasn't a safety car out of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to think everyone might be a bit tired from waking up early, to watch the Japanese Grand Prix, and also that they clearly decided to watch the touring car finale at Brands Hatch as well, because it's like they're driving a lot less fragile cars than what they are actually driving at the moment. They've been sending moves all over the place, and somehow we've not had anyone retire, I think, from all of that. Will Lewis retired earlier on, but now Kevine and West and Pedreño have all come into the pits for soft tyres. This strategy hasn't really worked out for them, but they're going to be flying towards the end of the race. Benham's still holding on for points at the moment, all over the back of Drake Dempsey, who's had a nightmare second stint. And Dylan Warren, Alessio De Capua, can he finally get his first points of the season? The poor guy's been here every race so far this year. Should have scored points last time out, but he underfueled his car. Stays where he is at the moment. He will be scoring some points as Benham's massively deep into the final corner, and Jarno Uppbeat cruises past Max Fiesel. So Jarno Uppbeat is up into 3rd place. He's onto the podium no matter what happens with penalties, and we've still got this battle for the lead between Manley and Fassi. 4 laps to go. You could almost pick anyone from 16 to win this, by the way it's going.
Yeah, you certainly could. Ismail Fassi's done a great job to close up to him. He got a 5-second penalty early on in the Grand Prix. Not sure what it was for, but it could be definitely one that he could potentially get removed. So in that regard, we can take this as a legitimate fight for the race win, and do not discount Jarno Uppbeat, because he's almost back in DRS of these guys in front as well. He's using his battery. He's got lots of battery to use as well to close in on the guys in front, and there he goes. He dips into the 0.9 of a second gap. So Jarno now is back in it with DRS to catch up to Ishmael Fassi and Tom Manley, and there'll be 3 laps to go across the line this time by. I thought that all those crashes would bring an end to the battle up here, but it's actually made it even bloody closer.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Manley had escaped, and I still maintain the one mistake he made was when he had an opportunity into the final corner. He decided to sit back. I think with the traction he had, he'd have been able to hold that moving towards turn number 1 and just escape from the pack. All of a sudden, he's got Fassi all over the back of him. It's dragged Uppbeat, Wiesel, Smith, Pookie, Suriano. We've got a 7-car train here with 3 laps to go for the victory in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yes, 3 of those have got penalties, but you never know if they're going to be able to get any of them removed. Fassi's still all over the back of Manley, and Uppbeat and Pookie have the freshest tyres of anyone in this train, as Jake Benham's still carrying on those hard tyres, and he's still managing to keep Dylan Woman behind him, and Jenna Kinchy still can't find a way through.
He's on almost 20 lap older tyres. He's desperately hanging on here to one solitary point. Shannon Kinchy's sliding all over the road. He's got Alyssa de Capua, his teammate, who's on much fresher tyres behind as well. But Jake Benham desperately hanging on to one championship point. But remember as well, he's a championship contender. He needs every point he can possibly get, but he's going to lose that point now. Shannon Kinchy goes through, and Alyssa de Capua barges his way through behind as well. Follows his teammate, dropping Jake Benham out of the points. A valiant effort on 21 lap old tyres in the end. But up front, it's Tom Manley in the lead. Ishmael Fassi in second. Jarno Wotmir is third. Max Wiesel still in with a shout though in third place, and potentially with a penalty removal as well. Could be on for something here. Of course, he had to take that avoiding action. We got a yellow flag. That's Pedreño went off in the middle sector. So that's unfortunate for him, but it's getting closer up front. Wotmir has closed up big time up to these guys in front. This could go 3 wide down the straight, I reckon. Lap 24-25 coming up here now. Tom Manley desperately trying to hang on to a race victory here. Jarno Wotmir is on the attack though down towards turn number 1. 2 more laps to go. This is anyone's up front.
Yeah, this is anyone's guess as who's going to take this victory here. Further back, we've got the 2 Ferraris battling for the final points position then. Kinchy and De Capua, not where they'd want to be fighting. How much is De Capua invalidating that final lap in qualifying? Could he have been up there at the moment with the lead cars? Jake Benham's into the pits. He's going for a fastest lap. You don't get any points for the fastest lap in WOR. Apart from that, it's identical to the point scheme used in Formula 1, and there won't be any confusion as to whether we're going to need full points or 75% points. It is going to be 25 for whoever takes the victory here, as De Capua's all over the back of his teammate. He was very aggressive on the previous lap, making a move. This time a bit less contact, and that is De Capua up in towards 10th place for now, as I get a feeling, I don't know whether Manley's just trying to push a bit more on this lap, take advantage of that 1 lap fresher tyres. He's not burned up in a lot of DRS. Certainly feels as though just slightly he's got the edge through sector 1 on Fassi, but then when it comes to this part of the track, Fassi's got the DRS and could just close up again. Yeah, and I'm watching Wotmir because he's got 70% battery compared to the guys 30 in front. He's got more to use. Well, this is going to be a grandstand finish. Buckle in, ladies and gentlemen at home. Into the last corner they go for the second to last time. Manley desperately trying to hang on for a victory here, using all of his energy down the main straight. Wotmir not using. Interestingly enough, he's saving it for later on in the lap. Manley has enough to stay in front for now through turn 1, through turn 2. Onto the power they will go. Where does he make the move? Will there be an opportunity? Manley with 17%. Now Ishmael on 35% in the battery. He's got a little bit more to use. He's thinking about that second DRS straight now. So to Manley's got to harvest energy. He's got to save up that battery through this sector now to try and keep this victory. It would be a lights to flag victory on paper, but it certainly wasn't that from there. Istvan Pukki getting past Luke Smith into the banked corner. There's a contact through there. They both run wide. Can Suriyama capitalize? More contact. Round he goes. Istvan Pukki is around, but back to the front now as they come up towards the second DRS straight. Fassi, has he got enough? He's very close. Now they're going to start using down the straight here. Is there an opportunity for Ishmael Fassi to steal this on the final lap of the Grand Prix? Down he goes.
DRS open. One more opportunity. There's not quite enough space to go through there. There's going to be one more attempt, really, down towards the final corner. Does Manley have enough? It'll be a run for the line. Here comes Jarno Wottmeier now. He's right behind these guys in towards the final corner. It's going to go 3 wide for the win. No way through for Wottmeier now. He's got the outside line and the switchback line for Jarno Wottmeier. Fassi gets it done on Manley. They're 3 wide to the line here. Wottmeier right up behind. Fassi's in front. It's a run for the line. It's Fassi, but Jarno Wottmeier will win it on penalties. What a finish in WOR. 7/100ths of a second across the line. But if that penalty is removed, it will be Ismail Fassi by the smallest of margins. But Jarno Wottmeier, for now, takes the victory with the most incredible finish here at Jeddah.
And I think Manley's emotions can be summed up by the fact that he has left the session instantly after that one. So close to that first victory. It is not meant to be, and provisionally at least, it is Jarno Wottmeier who takes the victory here today, moves himself up into our second IMA championship. Fantastic start to the race from Uppbeat. Looked as though he'd lost it on the undercut, but in the end, just able to outdrag Manley towards the finish line there. Luke Smith from 16th to 3rd as well. What a performance from Smith. Vissel Fassi, Jarno Wottmeier, and De Capo are getting his first points of the season. Very well done for him. Then Dempsey, and Akinci rounding out the rest of the points as Ruben Pedreño coming towards the finish line. Not the race he would have wanted. So much carnage in that race, but in the end, Jarno Wottmeier who somehow takes the victory.
That is the most insane finish I think I've ever seen around here. All those guys giving it absolutely everything. And Tom Manley, I mean, he's led from the get-go and loses it by 700ths across the start-finish line. I think it was actually closer, but because of the penalty for Ismail, it was 700ths. But I think it was less than that between Jarno and Ismail across the line. But as you can see, barring more stewards' inquiries and penalties getting removed and stuff, provisionally, it is Jarno Wottmeier who stands on the top step. And there it is, Jarno Wottmeier and Tom Manley, 7/100ths of a second separating them across the start-finish line at the end. That's incredible. And Luke Smith, what a brilliant drive, I have to say, from Luke Smith. 16th up to the podium. Now, we have to keep in mind as well, Max Vissel may have that penalty removed as well, as will Ismail Fassi if he can't get removed. But of course, if the penalty is removed, Ismail Fassi would take the win in this Grand Prix as well. Mikko Suriano in P6. Dylan Warren picking up P7 from 15th on the grid. Alessia De Capo from 14th on the grid, taking P8. Drake Dempsey taking points. And Channa Kinchi, what could have been for Channa Kinchi? P10 for him. But that could have been an even crazier finish with 4 cars fighting for the win. Isfan Pughi behind Modesto Mena, Jake Benham, all the guys who pitted early didn't quite work out for them. Jack West, Tino Nakarinen, Ruben Pedreño did get the fastest lap on the final lap on the 27.7. Will Lewis DNFing from the Grand Prix, Xander Van Dijk and Carlo Lundy and Jack Laverty, all DNFs from this Grand Prix. That was the craziest finish I've ever seen in the league race, hands down.
I mean, craziest finish. I think craziest final 5 or 6 laps. It all just started kicking off. And it seemed to be, as is sometimes the case, when you've got the slower cars at the front who did not need to pit again, in the cases of Tino, Jake, Modesto, and Jack West, and you had everyone else catching up. People were going for dive bombs all over the place. I mean, I'm not sure how there was no retirements from that one. I mean, we saw Jarno running completely off the track at one point, and he manages to come home with the victory.
I don't know. I really don't know. How is that possible? I have no idea. And someone making a good point as well. If that penalty is removed for Ismail, he came from 7th on the grid to the win. That rarely happens. Rarely happens, especially around the street circuit.
Yeah, and like you said, recovering well as well after getting himself a penalty. But I can tell you, we've got someone waiting here for an interview. Someone who I imagine is feeling pretty happy about how things have gone at the moment. It is Jarno Wottmeier. Congratulations on the victory. I imagine you're almost as confused to us as how all that happened without any damage, because there was carnage all over the place. Doesn't seem like we are able to hear from Jarno yet at the moment, but yeah, just Jack. We'll continue talking, obviously, about what happened. What else happened in that race? Some of the other drivers who might be feeling pretty aggrieved in all of that. I mean, we said at one bit, you said it yourself, this is Tom's to lose, and I thought, yeah, 100%. Tom was, I think, 2 or 3 seconds clear of Ismail Fassi, who himself had that penalty, obviously.
Yeah, it was crazy, and the fact, I was very impressed with how much Ishmael closed up towards the end on Tom. Jarno, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear
There
me
we go. There we go.
We can hear you. I mean, congratulations on the victory, Arno. First win of the season in what was an absolutely crazy race. I mean, we saw you going off track at the moment. I think we saw everyone in that race going off track at the moment. How on earth did you come through to take the win?
It was completely chaos at some point. I think at some point everyone had gone off track. Yeah, I doubt I will keep the win, to be honest, because I completely killed Chan at some point in the first sector. Yeah, it was just such a mess that the people staying out just create so much chaos by just being there. But yeah, still was a good race. The pace was really good, I think so. So yeah, I think I've learned a few things so far on this game that are coming my way. So I think it's my first league racing win in a very long time. So it's good to win finally again.
Yeah, definitely good to get that victory, and I imagine good to have a good qualifying session as well. We said arguably that's been your Achilles heel. Has qualifying been something you've worked on recently? Ready for esports?
Yeah, out of esports, I've only done qualifying because it's the only thing we lack. So yeah, I'm really trying to get up there in qualifying. I think in first half of an esports event we were not that far off. I think on average around 1/10. So it's not much we have to gain, but with a 1/10 is the difference between P1 and P8 quite often. So
yeah, it's always incredibly close. And how are you feeling ahead of the next esports event? Obviously, we raced at Zandvoort last week, and we'll be racing that later on in the week. And you've also got, I believe, Austria and Belgium. How are you feeling ahead of that?
Historically, they've been very good tracks for me. But again, that doesn't say much. But I'm feeling a bit more comfortable in qualifying compared to the first event. So we're gonna have to wait and see what others do lap time wise, of course. But I hope to be a little bit closer.
Yeah, certainly. Jack, any questions for our race winner?
No, I think I'll let him go off and relax after that because I think you're going to need it before esports on Wednesday. But good to see you fighting back up the top again, Jarno, and best of luck for Wednesday.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, cheers to Jarno, our race winner for tonight, and we're going to bring in the man next to us. Once again, so close. It is Tom Manley. You're getting closer, but in the end, Jarno just getting that exit out of the final corner and having the extra ERS.
Yeah, well, Jarno hit Chanik Hinchy anyway, so I think he should get a penalty for that, but I don't know, we'll see. But then Ismail, I think, is getting his penalty removed apparently, so looks like Ismail's won anyway. But yeah, last lap, still enough ERS. I don't know, just not very good at the end, but I think it's P2 again, so not too bad. But
yeah, still a pretty good result, and I think if Jarno gets a penalty and Isma gets a penalty removed, it should still, I believe, move you up to second in the championship. Tell us about the start of the race, because Jarno seemed to break away from that 1 second gap. Were you ever concerned about that, or did you always think you had that possibility to get it back in the pit stops?
well, my tyres were freezing. I ruined the restart. He got a good exit out of last corner, so it was quite easy to brake. And then he did brake. I didn't really know his battery. Then I knew he used a lot. I saw him flashing a few laps later. The gap kind of stayed like 1.4 quite a while, so I knew the pace was quite similar. So I knew that I could get him with an undercut anyway. So I wasn't too eager to get back in. But yeah, it was a bit frustrating to lose DRS because obviously you have to use DRS. Then you're vulnerable, but I think the pace was enough to keep us ahead. Yeah,
I mean, still a good result for yourself. 4th podium of the season, possibly up to second in the championship, depending what happens on penalties. How are you feeling ahead of Mexico, our final race before the break week?
Another RNG track like Monza. We had that a few weeks ago, so probably a lot down to luck, Mon's skill, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of chaos once again. The last few laps, DRS chickening and stuff. So yeah, it'll be difficult.
Yeah, I'm not sure it can be as much chaos as tonight, if I'm being perfectly honest, but we'll have to wait and see. Congratulations, though, Tom, on another podium. We'll let you head off.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
And finally, a man who I'm not sure we expected to be talking to, no offence to him, at the start of the race. It is the person who finishes in third, first podium of the season, for Luke Smith. Jack, why don't you take us through this one?
Yeah, I think we're all as surprised as maybe Luke is as well, because I don't think, Luke, you kind of flew under the radar for us until the very last few laps until we noticed you were in P5. What happened?
That's a very good question. I honestly don't know. With all the carnage that was ahead, firstly on lap 1, starting from P16, got up to P11 off the start, which was probably one of the best starts of anyone on the grid that time. Then just afterwards, just keeping it clean, trying to just keep my head down, keep out of carnage, making moves when I needed to, and just reacting to the situation well enough. I did have a small mistake before the race even started, and forgot to change my tire pressures for the race, so I was actually lacking a little bit of pace. So the fact that I'm on a podium here just becomes even more like astonishing, to be honest. Then obviously capitalizing on everyone else's penalties ahead. I think it was Max and who else was it? I think Ismail had penalties as well. Then I was just able to take those positions and somehow fraud my way here. So yeah.
Frauding your way here, that's the story of my life. But yeah, it's great to see you up on the podium. Obviously, next F1 Esports event is on Wednesday. How's preparations going?
Well, thank you. I think in event 1 we weren't as strong as like maybe we would have liked to be, but I can tell you for sure that we've worked our asses off to get back up to where we should be. So yeah, expect big things.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for that, surely. Well, Luke, we'll let you go off and relax after the craziness, whatever that was. But best of luck on Wednesday. We'll be watching, and have a good evening.
Thank you, man. And yeah, have a good evening yourselves.
Thank you, Luke. So, that was Luke Smith, as surprised as we were to see him up on the podium.
Yeah, I think everyone in that race sort of had just a mixture of emotion of like shock and, yeah, I think just shock of basically as what has happened. But there can only be one winner, and it was tonight, Jarno Opmeer, who takes his first victory of the season. As he said, his first, race that counts, really, victory in terms of league racing. Did win the pre-season race that we had here at Abu Dhabi, and very magnanimous to say, you know what, if I'm being honest, lads, I think I'm going to get a penalty.
Yeah, he was pretty clear-cut about that. He's like, I killed Chan Akinci. So it came from his mouth. So we didn't say it, but he said it. So obviously, if that does get a penalty, well, then it'll be Ishmael Fassi who takes the victory, as long as he gets the penalty removed, which if it isn't the case, well, then Tom Manley's won it. So we won't really know until the stewards' inquiries are over anyway. But either way, we think Tom Manley's now second in the championship.
Yeah, assuming that Jarno gets a penalty, we'll see if Chan reports him. We'll see if Isma gets his penalty removed. That one could be marginal. Max could get a penalty. I mean, Luke could end up... We said Luke's finishing third here. He could end up finishing in 6th, which I think just sums up all the carnage that seemed to happen. And Jarno summed it up. Those at the front obviously are trying a different strategy, and they're fighting for position. It just causes so much carnage.
Yeah, you could see Tino, Jack West, Jake Benham, all those guys who pitted under the safety car. It was the safety car that kicked this all off, really. Because if they didn't pit under the safety car and try to go to the end, it would have been pretty bog standard, sort of one stop to the end. But that created the problem of a huge gap of 5 cars up here, and then the rest of the field here, and eventually they all came together to this big mess, which is what we saw towards the end, and we got that incredible 3 wide to the line, with 700s between Manley and Opmeer, but there was 100%, I think there was a couple of thousands between Fassi and Opmeer as at the end right there. So closest finish I've seen, but the safety car and Jeddah, just a combo that creates that, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jeddah causes enough carnage when you add a safety car into the mix. I don't think you can really beat it in terms of Formula 1. Certainly one of the tracks. I'm not the biggest fan of it in real life for various reasons, but on the game, it always provides fantastic action. It certainly has done tonight. Next week, it's going to be Mexico, another circuit where the DRS is so crucial.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. And I've just seen in the stewards chat, Ishmael's trying to get his penalty removed. So he's gone to the stewards with it, so we'll keep an eye on it. But definitely Mexico, another big DRS track, but also like what Tom Manley said, it's another RNG track. What he means by that is the curbs. They'll either kill you or they won't around there. And that's the decision. That's the fine margin of getting a good lap in qualifying and spinning. Or even in the race, following somebody closely, hitting the curb the wrong way, or not even hitting it wrong, just hitting it and getting spun, insta-spun at the end. So Mexico will be interesting to watch, of course. And we'll see if Lucas Blakely is there. If he's not, then the championship is going to be very interesting, because that's going to bring it right very much closer. If he doesn't show, Tom Manley, Yarn, I want me if they decide to show up as well. But again, that'll be after the next F1 Esports event, so I'd expect a bigger turnout.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone will be nice of them to use the F1 Esports as a little bit of a warm-up for WOR on the weekends. There's plenty more action across all of our tiers here. Of course, you can check out what is happening in the Xbox tier tomorrow. They are trying out a track that we saw a couple of weeks ago. They are going to be going around the slightly reformed Circuit de Catalunya, so make sure to check that one out. That is tomorrow evening at 8 PM. Also got action from the top PlayStation tier on the Friday, as well as all the lower tiers throughout the week before myself. And I believe Downfield will be joining me once again. I'm back with Mexico next weekend on Sunday at 7 PM. Thank you so much to Yarno, Tom, and Luke for joining us for the interviews. I imagine they were all absolutely exhausted after that race. I know you guys were commentating it. Thanks to Jack for joining me in the commentary box. Thanks also to our sponsors, Grid Rival. Make sure to check those guys out in the description. And thanks most importantly to all of you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up to date with all the latest action from WOR, and keep up to date with our socials, which are above us on screen. And we will see you next week for the Mexican Grand Prix. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.